What is up, Nintendo Land? Welcome to Nintendo Open Air Podcast. Tonight we have an Easter basket full of surprises, and I don't mean day old candy. This is no April Fool's. We'll be talking about everything from satellite gaming to Pokemon lawsuits to eShop releases that Nintendo aren't constantly tweeting about on Twitter. We'll even hear about a new term, NintendoWare. It's going to be a good one, so stick around. Before we begin, let me introduce our panel for this evening. We've just three of us tonight. We've got Mo with us and Z, as always, and I'm your host, Jason. So we're going to start tonight with some numbers from Japan. Switch hit a fairly big milestone just this past week. 4 million units sold. And it's pretty close to the Wii's pace. We did that in 54 weeks, and Switch did it in 56. Pretty cool.
I also saw a statistic this week. I think it was this week, maybe it was last week, in the numbers saying that the Switch was officially, and it seems like I've seen something very close to this already, but it was officially the fastest selling console in U.S. history in the first 12 months.
I think so. I believe I saw that as well.
Yeah, I've seen that from many countries, actually.
Yeah.
It's like the fastest selling. But yeah, I'm surprised that it's pacing itself so close to the Wii, being that was such a smash success. And this one doesn't even have a bowling game.
Yeah, this one but Zelda, here's the thing about Zelda that's smart. Like for me and for you, Mo, and I forget in your case, Jason, but right, Ocarina of Time, I know it, I respect it, I revere it. I got bored halfway through it. But for a lot of people that didn't necessarily buy Breath of the Wild, that wasn't their game, they know it, they respect it, and it was a big enough launch title that, you know what I mean, that it's a respectable, they've heard enough about it, and it's been a big enough game that even people who didn't play it or weren't into it are still like, oh, okay, it had a good launch title. It's legit. Like right. It's another notch on the belt or whatever. And again,
added to the legitimacy of the system, you think?
Yeah, but and again, the other thing is I don't remember there ever being a point where it's like, wow, people are getting, games like from the other consoles to run on the Wii and run them and they look almost as good. Like there was never even close.
Right.
And so there's the ports. We were just talking about Attack on Titan, and there's the trickle of big ports, but it seems like the ones that are really polished and really are, seem to be mostly fairly well optimized for the system, with a few sport games exceptions, seem to make it through the filter, or at least, those are the ones that the third parties seem willing to put out. It's in a much better position than the Wii was, regardless of the numbers, even though the numbers are on par.
Well, technology-wise, too, it's a lot easier. I mean, a game can at least look halfway decent, even if it is a generation old.
And they always have. There's the best thing about the Switch is it's an excuse. Now it's the perfect excuse for Nintendo having weaker hardware. They always have that excuse to fall back. Well, it's portable, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They can always use that for any limitation on any game, and that'll roll them through at least another year or two, I think.
That always surprises me, by the way, when you're seeing reports from people outside of the, core Nintendo fan base or Nintendo news reports. You see, people that normally maybe talk about PC games or something. They're talking about that portability. And that seems to be a pass, like you're saying, for Nintendo. They've got portability, so the game don't have to be perfect. It's portable.
Right. Well, that was a big deal with Vita. They talked a lot about, because you could play some of the same games. Wow, be able to take it on the go. And I think that is a big thing. But this is definitely the most, potential for, AAA titles,
Yeah. As a side
go.
It totally, but as a side note, I'd like to mention, because it's been rolling around in my head since the Switch. I remember many reports early on about the PSP and the Vita and why they didn't do very well, or Vita or whatever it is. And a lot of the arguments stemmed around that people don't want to play the same games on the go that they're playing on the console. And the Switch kind of totally negates that argument. But that seemed to be a significant, at least, maybe that was part of Sony's argument of spinning it.
Yeah,
Why it wasn't
I think
selling
that's
very
also
well.
been part of the argument for why 3DS did well. Is like, well, people want to play a different game when they're playing handheld than the stuff you're
Yeah,
playing. But
and
I don't know
that
that that's
lends
necessarily
itself.
true.
Well, to a degree, I would say there's a certain audience. We know there's a certain audience that picked up the 3DS that didn't pick up the Wii U, even though
Yeah,
the content's similar, the library's similar. There's a lot of crossover, but it just, what I mean. There's a lot of people that just wouldn't take the plunge on the Wii U, but a lot of them bought 3DSs,
yeah.
and I think there is a certain different market. I think right now, phone gamers and stuff are a little more
Pokemon
at.
gamers.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
Yeah,
lot
that
of it.
is
But
its
yeah,
own
if you
thing.
like
Yeah.
the Super NES, then you'll definitely like the DS line. There's a lot of platforming stuff.
I'm even to kind of compliment on what you're talking about. Even just speaking of Animal Crossing, you hear people when you're talking about Animal Crossing as a series, they say, "I really prefer a home console game," or "I really prefer a portable game," and it's like it's almost two separate games, and it appeals to two separate audiences in a way.
Yeah.
You mean the Animal Crossing itself? Some people preferring it on a home console, and some people preferring it handheld.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I would think that if Nintendo were smart, well, in their older two console days, they would have had kind of instead of putting out one on the handheld and then one on the console, they should have had a little bit of integration, obviously, and they should have been kind of different variations on it.
Like Smash.
Well, Smash was a little too similar.
I mean, you couldn't play with each other either.
And there was no
on that
cross
one.
play,
Yeah.
which was a pisser because they promised that originally.
Yeah.
But I just mean, you know what I mean? The Animal Crossing DS one, not that it would be a light version, but it would just be different. It would be a more handheld specific. It would have, things that were kind of specific to the little local touchscreen, and, the Wii U one appropriately would have no touchscreen, nothing to do with the touchscreen whatsoever, like almost every other Nintendo Wii U game.
They sort of had something like that with the original Animal Crossing on GameCube, and then you could attach your Game Boy and play the island on your Game Boy. That was kind of a step in that direction, and they didn't really further well, ever.
Once
I've
again,
never necessarily
the idea Nintendo came up with. Really?
I'll play anything on my 3DS on my TV if I could.
You're kind of a unique case. Like, you're someone who really never takes your Switch out.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how unique that necessarily is.
Well, even with how often did you play your 3DS like on the road? Or
only on long trips. But I like to be able to pick it up and be in a room without a TV, or lay on the couch without having to look at the TV or whatever.
Yeah, it's a nice option.
Or again, in my case with the kid, and it's also a use case for the Switch, but still somehow I gravitate towards the 3DS for it. But right when I've just got to I've got to stay in the baby's room and keep an eye on her, while she's in the little jungle gym thing, or whatever, and I just got to sit with her. I can whip out some Pink Bunny action or something while I'm keeping an eye on her, and it's just somehow like that kind of. I don't know that there's stuff like that on the Switch yet. Like, right, something that
like
you literally
quick, easy games. Yeah.
Like that's like the Badge Arcade is literally something that you only have to focus on for like a few seconds at a time, like 3 or 4 seconds.
Good point.
Right. And then you can, if you have to, you can set it down for as long as you don't lose internet. Right. You can set it down as long as you need to and come back to it.
Or put it in your pocket.
Yeah, or whatever. But in my case,
Switch.
Right, in my case, it's like, oh shit, I got to deal with the baby, and it's like, oh, I just let go of the catcher, and then I find out what I got later, if anything, right? Because I have to run and grab the kid or do whatever, and but it still works for me in a way that nothing, like I can't quite play Mario that way. Yeah, I can pause Mario at any time, but it's not. Like it's a crappy game to play if you're playing it in 5-minute increments, which is what I did was how I did the boss battle, basically. Yeah. I played the first round of it, and then I won't do any spoilers, I guess, but the second round, it's like I had to just kind of pause there, came back to it like 6-7 hours later. And it just, you know what I mean? It kind of ruined the experience a little bit.
Even I think we're beyond spoilers at this point.
Well, yeah, fair enough. But go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, comparing that to like the Mario 3DS titles, those were much shorter worlds. 5 minutes and you've completed a world.
Yeah. Yes.
In Odyssey, it's like more open and continuing.
Well, the other thing was, like you said, the other benefit to them being smaller worlds was if you closed it and threw it in your pocket and picked it up a couple hours later, you didn't have to really find your spot.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could immediately figure out where you were, what there's something to jump on in front of you. That's pretty much all you needed to know. Whereas Odyssey, it's like, what moon was I looking for?
In each world, if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's really the most enjoyable way to play the game anyway. Is just kind of sit back on a nice big screen and just kind of let it roll for a while. Like I'm replaying because I'll bring it up since I brought it up earlier. Since I'm fixing all this old hardware, I dusted off, the N64 stuff, and I put in my Ocarina of Time that I hadn't played in 19 years since it came out. And decided to play through the Forest Temple. I'm actually playing it. I have it like plugged into this rinky-dink little, AV to HDMI adapter, and then plugged into a computer monitor that won't stretch it or won't constrain it to 4:3. So it's all stretched and nasty looking, and it's kind of a crappy adapter. So it's got like fuzz in it and lines running through it. But it's like, hey man, it's the Forest Temple. I just beat the boss after 20 years. The battery's still good. It's not that bad, but it's by no means the best experience. That said, it was preferable to figuring out where I was in the 3DS one and continuing from there, because I'm not as far, and I just somehow that game, even on a crappy setup like I've got, I'd rather play on a big screen with the N64 controller than on a small screen with 3DS pad.
Buttons, yeah.
I guess the real question is Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey going to carry the Switch at the same rate as Wii Sports did?
That's a good point.
Like the thing that confuses me about the Wii, when I think of the Wii, which I skipped that generation, so I can fully admit I don't know anything about the Wii, as far as the library of games and the timing. I don't understand what sustained that console. It had the cool virtual console. People weren't picking it up for Netflix. So how the hell did it keep selling? Was it just Wii Sports?
At some point it got so cheap that just everybody had one.
Well, it was such a hot thing for so long and trying to get one.
Yeah.
That drug it out a long time.
And they did that with the Switch as well.
But then I remember, like, when it was still, before it was dead, before the Wii U was out, I remember you could get one for $100 or less on sale.
Yeah, they were 100 especially for that little red one that they.
I'm thinking the original, like even before that little mini came out. Like I remember you could get the original ones for like $100 with like something with Mario Galaxy or something with it. And it was a sweet deal. And I think because it was GameCube hardware at that point, it was probably 10-year-old hardware that they had in these things. Yeah, they was just dirt cheap to produce, and it was just scale because they'd sold so damn many of them. But it was just like, I think a lot of people just, you know what I mean? My mom has one. I bought it for her, but she wanted it. Like, it wasn't like I just gave my mom a Wii random. It was like she was ape shit for the Wii bowling and had just discovered Netflix. And it was like, oh, they're like, I think I got hers for like $89. I think I found some crazy sweet deal at the time when they were still in the 120, 130 range or something. And it was totally worth it to her, Like there are a lot of people that were like that, I think.
I can't figure out what's moving that kind of volume. If it's other than just hype.
Buzz. Yeah, it's hype. I think it's just hype.
But I'm kind of wondering.
And Zelda and Mario. Go ahead.
Zelda and Mario won't last forever, though. I'm kind of getting. I know what you're meaning, Mo.
Yeah.
There's not like
I mean,
we should buy a Switch because this is coming out. I don't.
There
think
should be,
Labo will be it.
yeah.
and I don't know where this constant stream of new games is. Like when the first year they had a big announcement every month.
Yep.
That's good for a launch. That's not like once you get rolling, that should be small potatoes. Like you should have like I
Yeah,
don't
well,
I don't you know, at
now that
least during the
companies have
first
had a
six
year to
months.
prepare a game, there
Yeah.
should be stuff coming out like clockwork.
We'll
Mhm.
see. I
Nintendo
keep
should have more. I mean, right now we've got games coming up. We looked at for like what was it, April through May, maybe into June, that
Yeah.
have been announced so far. There's things in there. Everything is listed. The things in there should be filler. It should be the off month or something. We should have bigger titles that are keeping us going.
Yeah.
and it's my fault for not doing more research before the cast. But if I had, I would have done a little more research on what multi-plats have launched on everything but Switch over the past few months. But I keep seeing them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can name any right off the top of my head.
I don't know
But
that we're ever going to get to a point where those are simultaneously releasing on Switch.
I thought
well,
I thought we were moving in that direction in the beginning, but from the attitude of third parties,
we
I
see it
don't
with
think
some
so.
indies, possibly.
Well, I think indies, yeah, but
well, is Dark Souls.
You know,
Dark Souls
yeah.
Remastered is coming out simultaneous, and I think we'll see
But
some more simultaneous. But I just mean I think there's a lot of stuff just isn't going to show up. You know, it's another platform to support. Here's the thing for a lot of these third parties is they've been on the Xbox and PS or PlayStation train now for like 3 generations. They know the ins and outs of how those systems work, and in this case nowadays they're practically the same. So it's like Nintendo's still the oddball. They're not anywhere near as much of an oddball as they've been on previous generations, but they still are the oddball, and
Yeah.
therefore it
It's probably
seems
a
like
lot more
they're the
effort to
if
put them
there's
on the
one that's
Switch.
going to get dropped, the Switch is the one that's going to get dropped. Even if it's
Yeah.
not that much more effort, to put it on the Switch, if it's just a case of we have now an extra platform to support. We're already, we've been dealing with PC, Xbox, and PlayStation for 15 years.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder if we'll ever see another 2K on Switch. Like they put out 2 games, both have been
both were
nightmares.
disasters. Yeah.
Which I think would be cautionary to some people, like because they've got that added pressure too of when you put a game out on Switch, it can't just be awful. No matter how good it is on your Xbox and PS4, it still has to be a playable, decent version. So
Well, that
and
said, that's something that every other platform has complained about on their various ports. PC, there's terrible console to PC ports where the PC
yeah,
version is totally broken, and vice versa. But go ahead, Jason. You were saying.
I was going to say, I think also coming to Nintendo, the fans that are going to be speaking out and going to be at Twitter, sending you messages if you're a developer, we have a much higher standard because we're used to dealing with Nintendo, who normally produces really high quality content.
yeah,
You come over with something that's kind of half done, we're going to
yeah.
call
We
you
don't
on
deal
it.
with bugs and
We won't,
broken games.
and we won't deal with lousy icons on the home screen.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question, Jason.
Mhm.
So you're a Nintendo fan. You're a Mac user.
Yeah.
Do you naturally gravitate towards the underdog? Is that your thing?
I don't know. I must do it and not
He
realize.
just likes what he likes.
No, I think
And fair. That said, Apple and Nintendo haven't always been, the underdogs. I guess Mac's always kind of have,
Well, Apple
but
has.
Nintendo hasn't. Apple itself, not so much with the iPod and the iPad and the iPhone, but Macs in particular have never quite had the market share.
you got to remember though, when I became a Nintendo fan, Nintendo is all there was.
They
It
were
was
on top of
Yeah.
the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know what you mean. They were it.
Apple had the school
That was
market
just
pretty
messing with
well.
you on that. But yeah, they had. See, that's the
For a
thing. I
while.
think Nintendo's doing that again because again, I keep hearing my little cousin-in-laws and whatever asking their parents for it. It's what they want, and you know what? A big part of what they want is the ports like Mario Kart and Splatoon. right? Because they had heard about those before, but they didn't have a Wii U. You know, and so it's. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it reminded me a few weeks ago. My nephews, I had brought my Switch over to my mom's house, and the nephews were over. It was the day that my daughter played them in Sonic Mania, and they have Rocket League on their Xbox, and they were just like, "Hey, you want to play some Rocket League?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I had my Pro controller as well as
Oh, that's awesome.
the Switch, and I was like, "Yeah, we can play." I was like, "What do you?" We just played against each other. We just did like 1-versus-1.
Oh, okay.
Or I think we did
cool,
2-versus-2, but we had And I was just like, "You want the Pro controller?" He goes, "No, man, I want the Joy-Con." I was like, "Wow, he even knows to call them Joy-Cons." Like, I was like, for somebody who doesn't have it, like they've gotten that branding out there apparently. But I was like, "You're a sucker," but okay, here you go. Have fun. I'll play with the big boy controller.
Admittedly, when I was at my Thanksgiving for like Mario Kart and stuff, everyone wanted to try the little tiny mini controller.
Yeah, he used them in the grip. I mean, and he actually first wanted to do them. He wanted to do them separately, actually first.
Nobody wanted to try that.
Yeah, he thought it was I think that was like a cool idea to him, of being able to sit, with his hands separated and control the left side and the right side. But I don't know if Rocket League's the right game for that.
Now, see, and that's I guess you could argue that's their game with the eShop too, because it really they really did try to make something that just appeals to everybody, and somehow they pulled it off, man.
Yeah, they definitely want one now. I mean, they've wanted one. My mom was kind enough to buy them a console for Christmas last year, and asked, like, "What do you want? I'll buy you a PS4 or an Xbox One or a Nintendo Switch." And they said they wanted an Xbox One. So
I remember.
That's what they went for. And then, like, a month after she bought it, when December rolled around, they were like, "We've changed our mind. We want a Switch." My mom's like, "Sorry, I already bought the Xbox, so that's what you're getting."
Couldn't be returned. It's Christmas season. Usually they're pretty lax about it.
Well, she probably could have, but I think she had bought that. She bought a couple games, and she was just like, "Tough S. This is what you get." But they'll get one eventually, I'm sure.
You get quickly, very soon, the worst selling system of this generation.
Yeah. Well, I think they already have one. It's weird because their parents are divorced, so it's like they've got a PS4 and an Xbox One already at their mom's house. So this is just like a console for dad's house. So it didn't really matter to them because they already had.
That's what's funny about that. If they had a Switch,
then they would have had everything. And my brother doesn't let them play. Like, I think they're 16 and 12 or something like that. And my brother doesn't let them play anything that's not rated E, which I think is funny. And I'm like, so, like, when you go home, I'm like, "Does your mom let this?" She's like, "Yeah, they let me play whatever." But their dad will only let them play E for everyone games.
So their dad's the weird one.
No school shooters here. Oh.
Speaking of E for everyone games, getting back to some of the numbers from Japan, of course, leading the best sellers is our good friend Kirby with Kirby Star Allies. I'm really sorry for all those people in Japan.
It's leading right now in their charts.
Yes, that's the
top. When you look in the eShop right now, that's still. I'm surprised it lasted more than a week at number one. But it's still in the best sellers this week. Yeah, number one.
Wow, I'm sorry for the Americans as well, and North Americans and Europeans.
It's kids, maybe man. It is. Maybe the whole video game desert thing is working for Nintendo right now.
4-year-olds. It's for 4-year-olds.
Yeah, I still don't know how many sales it really. I mean, all you got to do is beat everything else. So maybe everything else is really selling low. Rocket League bounced back up to number 2 on because it's on sale, but I still wonder, like, it was on the best sellers, and like Overcooked and stuff like that. Like, I keep wondering, there's only so many Switches in the wild. How many people must own this? Like, I feel like everybody must have Overcooked, or almost everybody, at this point for it to have been in the best sellers for so long.
Have either of you guys bought it?
No.
But we also don't know the parameters for this. This is just strictly what Nintendo is listing. It could be based on anything.
But you don't. I mean, I would imagine it probably is bestsellers based on, how many sales it had for the week or for whatever. I don't know when they even update,
but we don't know.
But yeah, you don't know how. You don't know numbers. You don't know
mortar numbers.
Are they selling 1,000 of those? Are they selling 2,000?
Yeah. What is number one? Yeah. Is number one? Yeah. Exactly. Did they sell 150 copies this week? That's why they're number one, or 150,000?
It'd be really. I think it's going to be interesting after this quarter to get the financial results and see how things have changed if they do report on that, because I'm curious in this drought what they're selling and how many Switches they're selling. So.
Yeah, a lot of like even developers and stuff are usually pretty quiet on that. I saw IGN had a little interview last week, I think, with the SteamWorld Dig 2 president or CEO or whatever, and he had just said that the game did very, very well. And he's like, "What kind of numbers are you doing on that?" And he's like, "Oh," he goes, "We don't really talk about that." He was chalking it up to like a I don't want to say ethnic, just his country, whatever. I forget where they're from.
They're from Sweden.
Sweden, yeah.
I think so.
Like if it was just a Swedish thing, like we don't celebrate our successes like that.
That's interesting.
So, okay.
They have before.
They don't brag on themselves. He's like, "Oh, we can say we did very well, but we won't put out hard numbers on what we did." It's like, I would like to know how much, something like that did, or Celeste, or any of those. I'd love to just, out of curiosity, see the numbers on some of that stuff.
It would be
even when Nintendo put out that list of best-selling indies, they wouldn't say even what order the list was in.
No,
remember they were just like, these are our best-selling games, but we're not going to say which one did better. But the SteamWorld guy said,
why? Because then only the top 3 will sell, probably. But
bragging rights. Oh, well, the SteamWorld guy was saying basically the way it works on Switch is you get like a little website that you have access to, that you log in and you can check your numbers, to see like how many games you're selling or whatever, and probably your revenues. So he said after the first day, they logged in, and he was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "We did better than the first game. Like, we're doing great." And then the next day he logged in, and it shows you, your day-to-day sales, and the numbers from the previous day apparently hadn't updated completely yet. So he thought he had waited the 24 hours and thought it would show him everything. But then he's like, the numbers kept coming in from day one, and that number kept going higher and higher and higher. And then the second day got even higher than that. So I want that website. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see what their numbers are doing.
I do want to correct myself right quick. They are from Sweden instead of Switzerland. So apologies.
You said Sweden.
I'm pretty sure you said Sweden, man.
You're good.
Oh, I did. Never mind. Never mind then. Never mind.
He regrets nothing.
I regret nothing.
Yeah, I know it's one of. I knew it was one of those Nordic things. So yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they did very well. But I wonder what kind of numbers these indies are doing. But I still don't think these indies are driving sales of the system. It's nice to have once you've got it, but I guess when there's just indies and Kirby, you're just like, well, I guess that's the Nintendo game. Or maybe that's an indication that really there's a bunch of parents buying this for their children. Parents buying video game systems for children? Ha! Nope.
Imagine that.
What is this, the 80s?
I know. Games are for grown-ups. Everybody should know that now. That's true. Nintendo is really the one that kids can play. I guess if you're gonna, maybe that's where they get. Maybe that it really is a huge demographic for them.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of E for everyone stuff on the other consoles. It's just not. It's a secondary thought. It's not going to be the same kind of quality as the
sports
stuff
games.
Get out of.
There's games and racing games. Like that's what my nephews end up with, and Lego Worlds,
and yeah, exactly.
Well, what are they promoting with their consoles? We see an Xbox promotion on TV or something or PlayStation, they're promoting it with Call of Duty or
that's true.
Assassin's Creed or something. You see Nintendo, it's Mario, it's Zelda, it's Kirby.
And it's like they're talking to babies in the commercials. Like if you look at the Nintendo Minute or whatever, it's like they always are like.
I don't think anyone knows who exactly they were talking to, but they're talking to someone. It resonates with someone. Except
for that first Switch ad.
The first Switch ad was great. Then they lost it.
But I don't know. I wonder. I don't know what's going to sustain them or what can sustain them. Mario's going to sell obviously forever until the console's dead.
Yeah,
people will continue to buy that. Breath of the Wild, I feel like dipped off a little bit because I know Odyssey has outsold Breath of the Wild now.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, by the way, just hit 1 million sales in Japan just as really recently, last few days, I believe.
Yeah, which is really good for it in Japan.
Yeah, that's great.
So I don't know,
but I do agree. I think a lot of Breath of the Wild has trickled off even with the re-release of the Explorers.
Yeah, the hype's died down. It's had time. It's had a year to kind of chill. Even with I don't even feel like it got a huge bump from Game of the Year stuff.
No, or the DLC.
Yeah, but Nintendo also hasn't really been mentioning it anymore.
Yeah, Nintendo has been
for them.
As we said in the opening there, Nintendo has definitely been mentioning Kirby though. So I guess that's one thing that's promoted it.
Yeah.
We're sorry for our friend Eric who is not here tonight. But they do mention it almost every day.
If you follow them on Twitter, you'll see something about Kirby all the time. Apparently it's working. Good for them.
Good, go for it, Nintendo. All right, so I'm going to follow up on a topic that we've talked about the last couple of weeks. And it's some new information on the Switch bricking. And we think some Redditors have come up with some ideas. And they think that it has to do with the USB protocols in the console, that they're not standard. And that may be the source of bricking rather than something, Nintendo is doing. I'm hoping Z can explain this more as he is our tech advisor here.
The logic of it is sound, but I haven't seen any details to support it one way or the other. I haven't hacked a Switch. But it sounds very reasonable. And it would be in Nintendo's wheelhouse to have something a little different like that. You can't bind a Joy-Con, to my knowledge, to any other Bluetooth device natively. You have to have some kind of trick to it.
It'll go to Android.
Just straight out?
Yeah. I can just link it to my Android.
That works?
Yeah, kind of. It depends on the game.
Okay, but it does. But it's functional at all.
And it's a little laggy. Yeah, it's got some lag to it, but yeah, you can put it on an Android device.
And that's where I would expect there would be protocol changes, because I've used Bluetooth and I've read a lot about Bluetooth controllers online and people complaining about lag issues and whatever. I've noticed it because I have the 8BitDo gamepad. When it links to the Switch, I've played hours of Splatoon with it with no real issue, and you know what I mean. It feels just like the Pro controller as far as the way it handles. But when I'm playing stuff on my PC, I'm inches from the Bluetooth receiver, so I know it's not a range thing or anything like that. It's ever so slightly flaky. Sometimes I was trying to play Streets of Rage on because I have that on the Steam Sega collection or whatever. Just screw with it, and because I was trying to decide for the 3D classics whether I wanted Streets of Rage 1 or 2, and I've decided I don't want either of them. But I decided to play.
I agree.
Yeah. Thank you for taking that hit for me, man. But I was playing, but I tried out the first one on the Genesis Classics, and it just was a little bit flaky. I'd let go of the stick, and she'd keep running for a second, or I'd punch, and occasionally that punch wouldn't come out. It was just here and there, but it was noticeable, and it didn't really affect the game too much. But it got annoying enough that I quit because of it. And that kind of stuff never happens on the Switch. And it's not just to say it's not just that controller. I've noticed it with others, 8BitDo and otherwise, when on my PC. And I don't know if I need to upgrade my Bluetooth stack or whatever. I haven't really dug into it, but just out of the box, I would think that should work well, and it doesn't. But on the Switch, it does.
I think the big disappointment about the Switch thing, and it possibly be linked to non-standardized USB, is if you remember, that was like a huge deal. Like, oh my God, Nintendo is actually putting out something with USB-C, which is kind of a modern.
By the way, I was talking about Bluetooth the entire time.
Oh, I know, so I know.
Strike what I'm talking about. I ain't paying attention.
You're fine. But that was like a big thing. Like, you can use it with anything that's USB-C. You don't have to go and buy a Nintendo exclusive charger. And it's like,
but then right out of the box, there were reports that people couldn't charge it with a regular USB-C charger,
or that it was slower. Yeah, like I've noticed it's a lot slower.
I can attest to that. I know one night we were playing a long session of Salmon Run in Splatoon 2, and I had it plugged into a regular non-Nintendo charger and USB-C cable, and it died mid-game.
Well, from what I understand is because it's not standardized, it can draw more amperage, I guess, from sources than it's supposed to, or less. So the Nintendo official dock and official charger apparently have a way of regulating that's built in somehow to their hardware. So it's not exactly, it's using the same plug, but apparently there's something else in there.
So then it's ultimately Nintendo's fault for allowing this to happen.
I think so.
Because these are licensed products.
And there has been
a licensee, right? This isn't like some Chinese knockoff that was made. They got the Nintendo license to do this.
Right. Well, I don't know if Nyko actually does.
But the
Hori's like their main guys, although they haven't made a third-party dock. If you've noticed, Hori hasn't.
They will.
Best Buy has, but theirs isn't official.
And I don't know if that one's bricking too. But I mean, I've heard there have been a few stories on Reddit that I've seen pop up of people saying that they've actually been able to bring one of these bricked ones back. And the way that they do it is by like letting the battery completely drain. Because when it bricks, you can still power it on. It just loads up to the Nintendo screen, but then never actually goes to your menu. So some people had reported that they were able to actually let the battery completely die on its own and then put it on the dock and let it charge up on its own. And then when they turned it back on, it was just back.
That's basically what I've experienced.
Yeah, there's only been a few reports, but yeah, I mean, you were having some issues even before 5.0 update.
Yeah, and I'll explain, and I haven't tried it since 5.0 because I've been afraid, but the issue I was having with mine very specifically, and I got to the bottom of it, was, and I even bought a little, $8 physical HDMI switch to resolve the issue. What it was and I don't know if it's something to do with my computer monitor or what, I think it was, but it would, basically the switch, like a phone, when you turn on your phone, and when your phone's charging and it's off and you turn it on, it stops charging while it's booting up, right?
Okay.
And then it starts charging again once it gets fully booted up. So if it doesn't have enough power to fully boot up, it'll die before it starts charging again, and it'll never boot up. So you got to let it get enough power before you try to boot it. So in the case of the Switch, what was going on is it would go to sleep, and it would immediately think that my monitor was telling it to wake up, right? You know how it's got that, I never thought to turn off that wake state setting. That might have done it. But right, it would go to sleep and then wake up, and then go to sleep and then wake up. And during that period, it was not charging because that was the pause in the charge. But because it was constantly cycling back and forth between those two states, it never got into the charging state. And so it would just keep doing that until it ran out of power. So I would come back and find the thing dead. I'd just take it off the dock and put it back on, turned off, and it would charge back up fine. No issue. But yeah, I just got a physical HDMI switch so that when I wasn't using it on the monitor, I could just, I would turn it off. And the other benefit to that was because the Nyko dock didn't ever have a switch between monitor and desktop mode. It was actually pretty cool. Because right, for example, I can watch something on the monitor and play like Puyo Puyo on the little screen or something, right? Something simple. Or I could, play shit while I had to work, right? Because it's also my computer monitor for work. So it totally worked out, and I was loving the new setup, and then all of a sudden 5.0 rolls out, and I just ripped it out and threw it in a box. I don't know if I'll ever try to use it again.
I mean, Nyko had a statement as well that they were going to look into, what was causing these things, but I'm almost wondering if, Nintendo's always been very much tied to you have to buy their hardware to run. So that's what was exciting about the switch to USB-C, but it seems like there might still be some other magical element going on inside there where, obviously they're telling us still you should only use our USB-C charger and not somebody else's.
But Nintendo hasn't come out and said that, and you would think if this was their plan or their intention, they would have nailed that home hard.
Well, they did. They issued a statement last week where they said, because they were asked about all these docks bricking, systems,
right?
And they basically said, well, Nintendo's official dock hasn't, and we only recommend using our official dock and our official chargers.
All right.
There were a few people on Reddit who had said that they had, batteries that they had bought that were causing the same issue, and people were saying that could be related as well.
If they had any idea this was an issue, they would have been warning people not to use third-party chargers from the get-go, and I don't remember hearing anything about that. Hori makes third-party chargers.
Well, there might be something.
Make a dock, but
there might be something in the official literature that comes with a Switch that says only use official Nintendo products.
Yeah, and that's probably on every Nintendo product that's ever been made.
But then there are actual licensees making these. I don't know if Nyko actually is licensed or not. Now that you guys mention it, I'd be shocked if they weren't. But I did recently toss the box and regret it. That said, I guarantee you there's an official licensee making chargers and whatever. There definitely are for the Joy-Cons. Now I'm worried about those.
Yeah, I don't think those are as much of an issue. But it's, I don't know. I don't think Nintendo intended it to happen or thought it would happen, but I don't really think they care that it is happening.
Yeah.
They have been honoring apparently repairs. Where I've heard of them even honoring out of warranty repairs, where if it's happened. But then again, somebody had said that they were using one of those extended batteries, and Nintendo sent them a letter saying, like, sorry, you were using an unauthorized product and we're not covering it. So
if it's unlicensed, you know what I mean? I can see them falling back on their licensee versus non-licensee thing. And that is what it is. But I don't know. Maybe they didn't sell that well. Maybe the problem is not as widespread as the internets would have us believe.
It's hard to say. It's like with the bending switches. You don't hear about those anymore.
Yeah, because I think people decided that was just stupid. But I don't see... Nintendo should be more out in front of it, I think. But again, maybe it's not anywhere near as widespread as we think. If they've only done a handful of them, again, internet amplifies everything. It sounds like it's millions of people, and maybe it's a few dozen.
But what we do know for sure is that there's been no reports of people using the Nintendo dock and the Nintendo power adapter and having these issues. So, PSA, if you're out there and you've got a third-party dock, it's better to be safe than sorry, I would say at this point. Brian Altano of IGN had his personal Switch bricked and sent it into Nintendo, and they were not able to save his save data and lost all of that. And he basically said he was at the office. His Switch was low on battery. He had a Nyko dock that was on his desk, so he's like, I'll just throw it on the Nyko dock to charge it up. before I go home. And then when he tried to turn it back on, it just wouldn't turn back on. So like that was his thing that happened. So if you really want a portable dock that bad, unfortunately, your best bet is to go on Amazon and buy one of those portable dock kits that you end up having to take the guts out of an actual Nintendo dock and put in, which is going to cost you more money. Because at that point, why not just keep the ugly Nintendo dock?
Yeah, but it does hurt portability, as this is a portable console.
Yeah,
you can't take that with you on an airplane,
right.
and stuff like that. It's just sad. With the if it is the non-standard USB protocols causing all the issues, is this something Nintendo can patch, or is this going to be like a hardware repair that will need to be done?
I gotta think they could probably do something in the firmware that would affect how much power it draws or what have you if they really wanted to.
If 5.0 is when it started breaking things, then they could theoretically resolve that, unless it's some kind of security thing, unless it's something, that they're really like, no, this has to be this way going forward, and so any docks made before this period are your SOL on.
Well, I wonder if that's part of it too, is when that big 5.0, which we know did a lot of security tightening, maybe that's one of the things that it looked for, was some sort of fluctuation in power, showing it that it's not the official Nintendo stuff that's powering it. Maybe that's part of the thing that they
and if you remember in the NES days and the Tengen or Tengen whole episode, right? This is the same kind of deal.
Getting rid of the lockout chip.
Yeah, exactly. This could totally be Nintendo doing something again along those lines.
Yeah. Either way, it's a horrible thing to be happening to people, especially you've never had to worry about going to the store and buying a third party anything.
Especially
they've always had the warning,
cloud saves.
Yeah. And what bothers me more than anything is I could see if it would suck if you just put it on the dock and it didn't power off or didn't power on or something, and then you put it back in the Nintendo and it did. It's the fact that it's doing something to it semi-permanently that very few people are reporting that they're able to get it back. I could see like you can't use it during this thing, and it's like, well, you got to put it back on the Nintendo thing for it to work right. But the fact that it makes it, and the cloud save is the big deal.
And this would be a non-issue to consumers if Nintendo had a cloud save. It would be an issue to Nintendo and the hardware folks, but it, like, you know what I mean? For the end user, it would be such a nice, comfortable situation. Like, oh shit, my console is bricked, but I'm just without my console for a while. I'm not completely, utterly, totally screwed out of all my game progress. I mean, and again, first world problems, it's game progress. I understand that, but it's on the flip side in the modern age, it's something that as a hobby, it's the same thing as if you spent 150 hours building a model airplane only to have, your dog sit on it, right? It's a very frustrating experience.
I don't even need cloud saves. Give me SD card saves. Give me any kind of saves.
Oh yeah, good God!
Don't tie it to the hardware.
Back it up somehow. Yeah, I agree.
Sell me a Nintendo external hard drive. That's the only way I can save my save data.
We'd all buy one.
Yeah. Whatever. Just give us a solution.
Sell me a USB plug-in GameCube memory card reader that I can copy my save data to.
I mean, even if they made a Nintendo official USB flash drive that you had to use that you could stick into the dock.
Yeah. Like this.
Yeah. Anything to just have a backup. Like it breaks my heart to think of people like Brian Altano playing through hundreds of hours of Breath of the Wild and he 100%ed Odyssey, and now they're just both gone. And it's like he's been pretty upbeat about it.
Didn't he win a gold medal for figure skating or something? So he's good. He's got that to fall back on.
I think that's
Brian Boitano. That's Brian Boitano.
And Wild Max has appeared.
Yeah.
Wild Max has fled.
That's right.
All right, so next on the docket, DLC. So within the last couple weeks, really just week and a half, we have had 6 DLC additions to Switch games. And of course, one of the biggest ones is Mario Odyssey new costumes. So first one's
those came out of nowhere.
Yeah, this dropped one day. First one's pretty basic. It's a baseball uniform, although it's kind of a tie-in to the Splatfest we'll be talking about later.
Yeah.
But
the cute thing about the baseball uniform is on the back it says Mario and his number is 64. So Mario 64. Boom.
Nice. Very
little
very
wink
nice.
and a nod, tip of the hat.
See, that's the kind of Nintendo that we remember, the little details.
Yeah.
Still no music in the eShop.
Well, it is on the flip side though, it's fan service, but go ahead. Yeah, still no music in the eShop is painful.
Yeah. The other one's a little bit more obscure.
Yeah, it says Satellaview suit, and if you don't know what Satellaview is, you're like most everyone else.
Yeah.
But it is for the Super Famicom, and it was a modem that would allow you to download games via satellite.
Yeah, which some of those go for big bucks now, because it would basically allow you to download games. So, and there was a cartridge that was associated with it that would temporarily store, and then, like you say, there was a Legend of Zelda one that's on there. That's one of the big ones.
Who is that for? Like,
well, Japan.
How many people? It didn't sell well in Japan either.
No,
like,
no.
Japan,
we had Sega TV here, if you remember. That
but
was
it's like,
the same type of thing for Sega.
Who fondly remembers the Satellaview? I mean, maybe in Japan, but I just mean if nobody bought it, then why?
Nintendo always kind of does a little nod to their history. You know, they'll put like the Virtual Boy in Animal Crossing.
Well, yeah, but the Virtual Boy
like
was
that.
dead to the world for 15, 20 years.
Satellaview's been dead to the world for.
But I suppose.
I'll tell you what, it's a cool suit.
Over there
it's the suit I wear.
Kind of thing as the maybe it has the same kind of thing as the Virtual Boy, where it's such a failure that it's changed mythical portions. I don't know.
I think they're just kind of giving a little nod to it, and it's just something
to me, it's a nod to.
It's just like what was the Diskin in the
that was the Famicom disc system, right?
But it was in some game where it had like a little icon.
It's in Badge Arcade.
Was it Badge Arcade?
Oh yeah, you could get him as an icon.
Yeah.
But you could also get him in Street Pass as a hat, I think.
That's what it was. That's what it was. The hat. Yeah. So yeah, they do little nods to their history now and then. That was fun. I actually beat Nintendo on Twitter to announcing that, and probably about 1 billion other people.
As a side note,
booted up the game and it was there.
One could argue the Famicom disc system was kind of the precursor to their biggest failure. Their relationship with rewritable media and whatever has been their biggest issue since the get-go, and I would say it all comes from that, because they were all in whole hog, and lo and behold, people were pirating their games left and right because you could recopy the discs.
Yeah. Well, Satellaview was kind of like the
and they've been paranoid about it ever since.
Before the internet.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
So it's like, but it was a cart. You were intended to download it, play the game, and then like the next week there was another game or whatever. So you erase whatever's on your thing and then download the next game.
Where you would, like, when you were downloading the game, it just looked like TV static.
It might. I think it was over a modem.
Yeah, you flipped on like if you flipped on the TV, you just saw static, but that was your game download. Maybe it was
possibly.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Like Willy Wonka, like Mike TV.
Yeah, something like that.
Am I coming in?
Who was recently on Jeopardy, apparently.
Yeah, good for him.
That's cool. That's a neat tie-in.
So but that's not nearly as important as all the Fire Emblem DLC.
That's right. We did get a few new characters, 3 new characters in Fire Emblem Warriors for the Switch. So I have downloaded it.
You've been complaining about the Warriors that came with it, that it was tied to pretty much, wasn't it just like one generation or originally, like when it launched?
Yeah, there wasn't much variety, and we did get some more characters from, let's see, some different games. Yeah, some other generations. So, yeah. I'm all for expanding the roster.
But that's paid, right?
That is paid DLC. It's $20 for a season pass, which I bought. I would say I wouldn't recommend it unless you just love these characters for some bizarre reason and have to have them. And I love Fire Emblem, but I would. Yeah. $20.
So you've got the DLC then.
Yeah.
Have you booted it up?
I haven't booted the game to play it, so no.
Wow.
And we also got DLC this week or within the last couple of weeks for Pokémon Tournament, which was also
adding more characters. Pockmark.
That still pisses me off because I got suckered into buying that on the Wii U, and I couldn't get into it, and now I don't even have the definitive version of this game that I hate.
That you don't like, yeah.
That pisses me off, but no, it's
how Jason feels probably about Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I guess he doesn't hate Mario Kart though. He's just
I'm just done playing with it. I don't regret it. I mean, there's no times like I wish I had the Switch version. So.
But if it drops to $20,
probably not.
Oh wow, good for you.
It would have to be a platinum reward if they ever had those again.
Yeah, if it was a platinum reward, I'd probably download it.
Anyway. Platinum points aren't worth anything. Platinum's worth less than gold now.
Yeah. That was a weird switch they pulled on us there.
Oh, I couldn't get the snap. Anyway, go on.
Any other DLC? What were we talking about?
No, I think that was all the ones we were going to mention. I know.
It's quite a bit. I love. Oh, and Splatoon, of course, always.
And the fact that Mo's still hiding balloons.
Yeah.
Like you've just beat that game to friggin' death, man.
Oh wow.
I'm not the only one.
The balloons are getting much more difficult to find, don't you think?
They're nuts, dude. Like, you post this stuff on Twitter, dude. They're crazy.
And I'm doing, at least the ones I'm doing are fair.
You know? They're not even fair.
There used to be some. I forget.
I mean, they're not in a wall. They're not glitched into a wall or anything, but they're otherwise as far from fair. You could theoretically, like, it's one of those things where, like,
I do not consider myself to be a skilled gamer.
Out of infinite possible universes, right? There's one in which you can get this balloon that Mo dropped, technically, but.
Well, it's like, okay, now what do? You do what? A long jump, a couple of the throwing your hat jumps, then you fall from a platform, you roll across said platform, and then you fall off of that platform and do another hat
and you grab every fucking coin on the way.
Yeah.
Like how you do
I didn't know that was the thing. You grab coins and it adds to your time. And then you go in a little nook that no one could possibly see from the start.
It's like, how the hell did you even get there in the first place?
I'm supposed to be hiding them. I'm hiding them. Yeah.
You're insane. It's like, I don't even want to try to do that. And I see you do it.
I know. Well, that was the other thing is I was like, if I'm posting these on Twitter, people are just going to find them and pop them. But one of them in Bowser's Kingdom, somebody did pop. But yeah, it's what I like is nobody really pops them first try though.
The one inside the cage in Bowser's Kingdom, someone got.
Oh yeah, someone got that right away.
I don't think it was from watching your Twitter video though. I mean, maybe.
No. I mean, there's as like I said, I'm okay, but there's a lot of people who are actually really good at the game that can.
You're better than all of us.
That's probably nothing for them. Well, I've also spent a lot more time than I ever thought I would with it.
How many hours now?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm over 100, and I quit counting after that.
Like I think you may have put more time in than Odyssey or than Breath of the Wild at this point.
Oh no, I don't think so. I don't know. The thing is, I keep coming back to that a lot more than because I don't come back to Breath of the Wild very often.
But do you go back just for the balloon? Well, I guess obviously just for the balloons.
Yeah, that's all there really is to do now. I've got 210 hours in Breath of the Wild. I've got 160 in Odyssey now.
And you're maxed out. Just to be clear, he is maxed out on the balloon level. He's hit 50.
Yeah. There's nothing for me to earn there. I'm just doing this for fun now.
May I step back a moment? Did you rent both of these first?
Yeah, we've been through that.
Okay.
Yeah. They're both rentals that I didn't think I'd have.
I think we're all just bitter that you can rent Switch games.
Yeah.
That's part of it. You know, this guy I work with mentioned it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to rent Mario because his roommate has a Switch. He's decided he's not going to get a Switch. He's just going to rent Mario and just power through it. Because I told him, oh, no, you can get through. You can get through the main game in 15, 20 hours. He's like, all right, I'm going to rent it and power through it in 2 days. So there are places out there. Not around me that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, well, my place that we've got here rents them. I think they give you a 5-day rental. It's like $7, and it's a 5-day rental. So I was easily able to get through Odyssey, and then with Zelda, it was like after the 5 days, I was like, I kind of want to keep playing this, so I just bought it.
Had you completed it after your 5 days?
Oh no, nowhere close. Not for Zelda anyway.
But you also rented Doom and completed that in your allotment, right?
I did. I completed that one, and I completed Odyssey.
I think we've decided you need to stop renting games.
Yeah,
and just buy them.
It's just if I'm not sure. I mean, Doom could have been, and I still haven't really played a ton of Doom since beating it. But it's nice to just have. It's one of those cool games. It's cool to have Doom. But yeah.
Well, since we're
on the Odyssey,
since we're talking about games that Mo has beat into the ground, we should bring up Rocket League.
Oh yeah.
So that's another DLC there, or sort of DLC.
Updates. They do a lot of updates.
680 hours, man.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Rocket League.
That's an addiction.
Nah, there's people played more than that.
Yeah, well, those people also have an addiction. 440 and
those people have also been playing for years. So.
That's true.
Yeah, although my hours in Rocket League have slowed down. I don't play it as much, but I do go in. You know, I sometimes will put a few hours in a day, so that's still pretty good. But yeah, the newest update has added the feature that I've been wanting forever, which is video capture. There's never been a game more perfectly suited for video capture than Rocket League. Yeah. There's websites and YouTubes and Reddits dedicated to people just uploading their amazing, awesome clips of Rocket League. So now Nintendo Switch fans can finally join those ranks.
I would have to argue that's a bit of hyperbole to say it's the best suited game for video capture.
Well, it's fun. I guess they're all really. We should have it for everything at this point. I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And longer than 30 seconds if we want.
Yeah, which they said at some point that's going to happen. Which I don't know. That's gonna. Didn't they say like up to 10 minutes or something was what they were wanting to do at some point?
Was it?
But I doubt they're going to be able to buffer 10 minutes. It's going to have to be something that you start rolling and keep rolling for 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, and then you're going to have a way to indicate that you want to do a long record instead of a short record. Cause I really don't want to dig through 10 minutes of Salmon Run to figure out what clip I actually was saving.
It's hard enough when it's 30 seconds.
Yeah, to be like, what was I capturing that for?
That's true.
So that happened. And then the other big thing, I guess, with this Rocket League is it adds a quality mode. So before we had performance mode, which was like mediocre graphics and 60 frames a second. That's now called performance mode, which is the standard. And then quality is it 1080, I think?
30 frames a second.
Yeah, but 30 frames a second, which to me has made it like almost I mean, I can play it, but after playing it for as long as I have at 60 frames and now dropping down to 30, I don't want anything to do with 30.
It kind of surprises me that like the whole thing about that game seems to be balance. Like we've talked about it before, there's almost no variation in the cars, very minor. And just enough to add just a little strategy with the different cars, but like otherwise it's pretty much a straight level playing field. There's no upgrades. Everything that you get is cosmetic. So it just seems odd to me that they would put something that is a significant hamstring. That's a significant disadvantage if you're playing at 30 frames a second. I don't care.
Yeah.
Even if
you play on PC, you've got both. You've got beautiful and more than 60 frames a second.
Well, that's okay. That's true. I guess is there is always an aspect of I don't know if they lock it. I guess they don't, because there's always some aspect of then the better your PC, the slightly better advantage you're gonna have.
Oh yeah, there's people who are like, man, if you're playing on anything under 120 frames per second, you've never played Rocket League, bro.
Diminishing returns, obviously. 60 frames a second seems to be the cutoff. I'm sure you can tell the difference at 120. Whether
it's
it
probably
really
a little
makes
bit
a difference
smoother
in your gameplay.
But
I'm sure that's more in your head than anything. But it is what it is.
I know they've talked to Rocket League players who are.
That seems to me like that's a significant enough handicap that shouldn't be. They shouldn't have that. But go ahead.
They had interviewed some Rocket League players that are like the championship, televised or not, whatever, televised, YouTubeized, Twitchized players, that play at the high level, and asked them about the Switch version. And they've all said like, I think it's fun and cute to like practice on a plane or something like that, but I would never actually play that version. So, but of course the people are all playing on super optimized. If you're playing at that kind of level on any game,
you are playing on a
PC.
$1,000 PC.
Yeah, that's tricked
exactly.
out.
So. And that's all you would compete on.
Yeah.
The same way that a professional runner or whatever professional golfer is only going to use the fancy clubs when he's actually playing for money or whatever.
The same way I'm only going to use the Pro controller.
That's the high-end Switch version right there.
That is. But yeah, so it's a nice little update. Rocket League's one of those games that constantly has updates and has little things. They just did a little spring deal. Well, I guess it's still going on, where they have like little cutesy items you can get for your car that are spring themed, and they did one for Christmas, and they've done ones for Halloween. So it's almost like a mobile game kind of in that way. It's like Pocket Camp. Like there's always like little seasonal things going on.
That said, I remember that from World of Warcraft a dozen years ago. That was again for any kind of persistent, competitive, whatever, where you have an online community, you got to keep it going, got to keep the money rolling in, right? People already
keep bringing people up.
Keep bringing back lapsed players, keep giving people something new and interesting. That was WoW did that very well with seasonal events.
Which they did introduce a new loot crate, or loot box, whatever.
Great! Maybe it's going to crash other people's.
Yeah, so they had the victory crate. Now they've got a new one called the Triumph crate, which I haven't gotten any yet. But
can you get a comic insult dog in it?
The victory crate was the one. That would be awesome for me to poop on Topper.
That would be awesome.
The victory crate one was the update that I had issues with. It's caused my game to just close out. It just auto shuts down every now and then, closes out of the game. It says the software caused an error, and they did admit on Reddit somebody had actually asked like, "Hey, will this new update address the issue with Switches crashing?" And they basically acknowledged like, "No, it's not gonna fix the victory crate issue, but we're still working on it." So I don't know why it's taken them so long to fix that, but it is very random. Like I can sometimes play for an hour or two, and usually if it gets to the 2-hour mark, it'll probably at least close once. But there's no rhyme or reason or anything. It just you'll be in the middle of a game, and all of a sudden it's just you're gone. So hopefully they get that fixed. That's what really took me out of it and made me stop playing so much. Just because it's like I was playing in the competitive mode, and I don't want to play a competitive game where I'm going to abandon teammates at random. When it's not just my rank, it's their rank too. So it's a courtesy thing for me to stop playing. So now I just kind of keep it in the casual mode.
That's unfortunate. Hopefully they will eventually patch it and fix it.
At least that means I can join you and, crash into you and block your goals and shit.
We can still play. We can play 1v1. We can play 1v1 with a computer. Teammate for each of us.
That's got to be boring.
Anytime you want to go, buddy, let me know. No, it's all right. I mean, it adds a random. It gives you a teammate to blame for everything.
That's true.
That's not real human.
That's true. It just gives you a handicap.
Yeah, it's like that computer messed me up. Sometimes the computer. I always think it's awesome in the game. Every now and then, like if somebody leaves, it replaces them with a computer opponent, and occasionally the computer opponent will actually get a goal. And I always will spam like sick and stuff like that. And it's like you just got scored on by the computer. But sometimes they can score. But anyway, that's about all we get to say on Rocket League, I think.
Well, there was one other little tidbit that you did not mention, and that was they have added a way for you to link your Nintendo account to your Rocket League account.
Which is not worth mentioning because it doesn't work. But yeah, there's a... So they've added an option in the menu now to link your Nintendo account. You basically can link your Nintendo account for Twitch. Rocket League does little things for people who watch the competitive Rocket League on Twitch where they'll have like in-game items that you can only get from watching Twitch broadcasts while you've got your account linked. And that works for PS, for PC, and for Xbox, but not for Nintendo Switch. So now they've added an option to link your account for Nintendo Switch, but when you click that option, it just says it could not connect to the Nintendo servers at this time. So
now that said, when Hulu first dropped, I pulled it like immediately, and I was getting something similar for the first.
Yeah, I don't know if that Nintendo has to flick a switch, or if we got to wait for the online service, or or what. But because I had emailed Psyonix, who makes Rocket League, a couple months ago, and I was like, hey, I know that there's like cool in-game stuff you can get from Twitch. Is there any way for Nintendo Switch users to get that? And they said not at this time. But what's cool about them is they're kind of they're growing, but they've got an indie feel to them, and they kind of are still technically an indie. So they're real big on like Reddit community and email. Like people throw ideas out at them all the time, and they do it. I mean, this update even brought some things like just better organization. Like you can get all these extra cosmetic items and stuff. People have been complaining forever that they wanted item stacking, because before it would just show like if you get a bird to put on top of your car and you've got 10 of them, it just shows you a row of 10 birds. So now in this latest update, it just shows the bird, and then there's a little number 10 in the corner that shows that you have 10 of them. So I mean, they're constantly making little improvements, and they do listen to feedback and stuff. So where some companies like Bethesda with Elder Scrolls will have bugs in the game that just never seem to get fixed after 8 years or whatever.
And then Panic Button's statement about Bethesda hasn't given us anything about updating Doom
for Doom, yeah. Although it's fixed
kind
now,
of telling.
So
yeah, and it seemed like that got Bethesda to pull the trigger, but it sounded like the ball was in their court, and they were just like,
and even adding the motion control, like that's pretty big. But yeah, it's nice to see. I love it when a developer, even if it's something like a nitpick, like stacking your items is it's a nitpick.
Well,
it's not game breaking.
It's not game breaking, but on the flip side, it is kind of an interface standard at this point. Like that's kind of kludgy and ghetto. That it just would kind of pile up a whole, especially for people like you've said have been playing for years and years.
Well, yeah, the real problem is with crates, because which they always do have an option where you can just hide the crates so you don't ever see them. But if you don't have it hidden, if you earn crates randomly through playing, and someone like myself who has over 600 hours, I would end up with over 1,000 crates. So there's just pages of crates that I'm scrolling through. So now it actually just shows one of each crate and then a little number in the corner. So, and they've done different stuff with user interface. So they've kind of neatened it up. Every time they do an update, they kind of neaten up little things. So,
well, then there's also the thing about the crates. It's like, I want to open this crate, right? That was probably a thing to people.
Oh, where you just go
crate.
I want to open the third one from the left.
Yeah, exactly. As
Even though they're all
opposed to
identical.
just now you're just opening a random crate. But
Playing your lucky lotto crate.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So,
Some people that was probably an aspect of the game is which crate do I want to open? Well, it's random. It doesn't matter. But
even though they're all identical. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So good for them.
Yep.
I love it when people update stuff.
Yeah, it's always good.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a new release slip out on this last week. It's not been really covered by Nintendo, and that is the Arcade Archives Punch-Out. And and I know some of us were looking forward to that. One of us was, at least. So,
I'm a Punch-Out lover.
I count myself as looking forward to it, but I just haven't. I actually did download it and haven't brought myself to touch it yet because I really want to turn my monitor on its side.
Why not get a second? Oh, wait, there's not a way to do that yet. Damn it.
Yeah, no. But I wish, I used to have one of those old rotating monitors. I don't anymore. I wish I still had it. Because I would totally, for this and Pac-Man and the pinball, I would be all over.
Yeah, Stern Pinball just recently updated too, and they've got a vertical mode, I guess they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which seems like that's made for Z. He loves that kind of stuff.
Except it's Last Action Hero. Like, they had good licenses on Wii U. I don't know what happened. They have good licenses on every other platform. Why did we only have the crap ones on Switch? Like, I would buy like they had a Star Trek Next Generation, and they had a bunch of old 80s and 90s ones, but like stuff that was cool, like the original Pinbot and Bride of Pinbot and some, classic historical stuff. And now we've got Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and really?
Yeah, that's the only free one. Yeah.
Oh, is that free? I forgot.
Yeah, that one's free. That's the only one that actually comes for free if you download the Stern Pinball.
I forgot, and I got a free demo round of something in there. But it's not. The Stern Pinball is sorely lacking over here. I don't get it.
Yeah. The problem with the vertical mode for any game is you have to play in tabletop.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, unless you have, I will totally turn at some point. I will totally turn one of these monitors on its side.
Yeah. I did play Punch-Out in vertical mode just because I'm one of the proud that have the Hori stand, which is the Kid Icarus 3DS stand for the Switch. So I did pop it up in vertical mode and played it a little bit that way.
Nice.
The thing is, the second screen is very much not necessary for Punch-Out because the second screen is just, it shows a picture of your opponent, a picture of you. I think it says round 1, which all matches are only one round.
It existed for other people to look at.
Yeah.
It existed for the other people in the arcade to see. That's why it was up overhead, and it was cool because it was like, hey, look, you're fighting. Everyone's seeing you fight. Like, it's so it made it feel like it's a little more of an event. But on this, it's just pointless and stupid. Yeah, but it is nice to have a legit arcade port of it.
Since the arcade version was a dual screen, this one gives you the option of basically you can also do the screens side by side, and you just play on the right side of the screen. But
you can't just turn off the other screen.
Yeah, I mean,
or
it's pretty much an arcade boxing game
or something.
It's kind of what you would expect. It's like an arcade Punch-Out experience, but it's not as good as the NES Punch-Out. I bought it sort of as just a vote for Punch-Out. Let Nintendo know I love Punch-Out and I will spend money on this.
Why do you think Nintendo has been so quiet about it?
I don't know. I mean, that's something when we were kind of talking about when we always make up a little list of what we're going to talk about each week, I kind of threw that on there. I wasn't sure if anyone else noticed that or not, but it just seems like Nintendo is usually big about promoting stuff, even though this is Hamster. And I don't know if they've really been that vocal about the arcade archives as a whole. I mean, they did put it in that little direct, but it's just like this just kind of came out, and it was like a rumor, like this is coming out this day. And then
that was the other thing. Yeah, it was like
you didn't
I don't
hear
know if it was
anything
officially
official
announced, but I had heard that it was the Friday, which was odd because everything usually comes out on Thursday.
Right.
And we were all speculating about it.
Yep. And then it came out in Japan the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was on their eShop, but still no real announcement from. I just still don't know if Nintendo's announced or tweeted or anything. Like,
I don't recall it if they have.
It's like it just kind of popped up. It's
I guess
number
they
15 in the bestsellers.
Yeah.
Or 14 out of 15.
You'd think it would have done better with a little promotion, but yeah, they dropped that when they announced basically that they were going to be bringing Nintendo franchises to the arcade archives or Nintendo arcade machines.
Yeah.
And then they that was it. They announced, and the first one is Mario Brothers. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then they flashed up,
I was wondering on Versus Super Mario, did that get into a direct as well?
I'm trying to remember if it did. It got
I can't remember when it seemed like we knew it was coming, but Punch-Out, it really seemed like it was a week before it came out. It was just kind of a rumor, and then it was just there in the eShop.
Yeah. I remember you weren't
even
sure that it was happening.
Yeah. And I would definitely say, I've only probably put about an hour into it. It is very much an arcade quarter stealer type of game. Unless you're a huge Punch-Out fan, I would say you can probably skip it. Go to YouTube, watch some footage of it, and see if it looks like something. Like, it's definitely not, to me, worth $8. But I guess it is because I love Punch-Out. But
see, that's the thing. It is to me mainly because I remember being a kid in the arcade and watching
people play
it extensively, but never. I think I tried it once and just lasted about 30 seconds at most, and was like, okay, I'm not gonna play this anymore. So it's fun to go back. And the same thing that's the reason I bought the Crazy Climber arcade archives. Is it's something that I remember. I played at a Japanese restaurant as a kid. And that one had the Japanese audio, which was just better than the American audio or whatever audio this is from. It might be European or something. But it's this weird. I think I mentioned it. I brought it up on a previous cast, but it's got the two control sticks to control your two different hands.
Yep.
And it's kind of this weird control scheme, and that's kind of what makes it neat to me. And it's fun once you kind of get the hang of it. But it was one of those things as a kid I just could not do. So to me, that's the draw of some of these arcade archives. Is it's like, oh, this is stuff that I just was not old enough yet for, because some of it is really ass old, and it's stuff that even at my old ass age, I'm like, wow, like I was not old enough for this when this was out. I couldn't really play this very well. I sucked at this. I'd like to try it again as an adult. Like Crazy Climber is easy now, or at least comparatively. Like I can just fly up the building in a way that as a kid I would get like stuck on the first window and fall to my death.
I think most arcade games from the 80s just are not that great. Like they are what they are supposed to be. They're fun for a couple of minutes, and then they either want another quarter or get you moving.
But if you don't have to pay for quarters, if you don't have to, for example, I would totally take an Arcade Archives 4-player original Gauntlet or Gauntlet 2 arcade machine, port. That would be awesome. That is, 4 switches or 4 players on the same screen. Both options would be ideal, right? That would be sweet. I would play the crap out of that. I'm also waiting for Life Force, the arcade version of Life Force, which was infinitely better than the NES version, and is on other platforms, but not this one yet. So
I want 90s arcade games. Give me Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I would love some Ninja Turtles.
Or that 4-player X-Men,
Mortal Kombat.
This was This was 90s arcade archive games.
Arcade Archive Street Fighter 2.
We're getting that in another month or two, right?
Yeah. But I don't know. It's not a bad game, but it's not a good game. But it's maybe that's why Nintendo didn't promote it too much. They're like, we're a little less proud of this one.
And they figure on Super Mario Brothers, most people won't get to the part where it starts getting just shitty hard.
Yeah, they'll just play the first level and then give up.
What would have been such a cool series is if they had, one of the Treehouse people or something. They had the old arcade machine, and they showed that, and then they showed like a reel of this on the Switch. Yeah. That would have been pretty cool. That'd have been. I don't know how much they want to push this, but that would have been a neat way to push it, to tie it in.
I think it's doing okay, but it's gonna it's gonna disappear
into oblivion.
Lost in the
mess of the eShop.
Yeah, lost in the mess.
See, that's the thing. If there was just an arcade archive section with Neo Geo given its own subfolder, of course, please.
Yeah, I'm glad that the Neo Geos are starting to slow down and the arcade archives are starting to pick up.
I'm far more interested. I mean, yes, Neo Geo were arcade games, and yes, I played a few of them, but I guess I have more eclectic tastes. And I remember that was the great thing about an arcade is you walked in and you had, dozens of machines, depending on how big it was. In my case, most often it was a pizza place nearby that probably still had like 20 machines in it.
Wow.
And it was all crammed together in a very tight space, but they pulled it off somehow. But yeah, it was, and you'd go in and there'd be Tetris on one side, there would be Excite Bike on the other, there'd be the Super Hang-On over there with the bike to sit on, there'd be the Gauntlet 2, there'd be Punch-Out, there'd be the submarine game.
Saw arcade Tetris.
Yeah, I remember
it. I guess, but
I'm pretty sure it existed. I'm positive it existed before the Game Boy. I don't remember. I remember playing it before I ever saw a Tengen cartridge with Tetris on it, but I thought it was probably, I don't know. I couldn't tell you dates.
Was it in color? Was it the grayscale?
What, the arcade one?
Yeah.
Oh no, it was like, of course it was in color. It was a legitimate. I'm not that old, man.
Well, I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know how Tetris started. That's gonna.
Yeah. No, they. That said, I think I do remember like that submarine game I mentioned was probably black and white, or black and green. But yeah, no, it roughly resembled what I remember seeing of the Tengen version.
Yeah.
On Nintendo, it was a colorful, had the right music and little dancing dude and the backgrounds.
Can you imagine playing that in an arcade now? It's like, oh, where's the Minesweeper? Where's Solitaire?
That too, but also, I mean, I don't know how it works. I don't know how they'd cut you off, but I would imagine, anybody old school who would play that in an arcade could drop a quarter in and just sit there for
unless there's a timer. You remember some games were timed. It's like you put in a quarter and that gets you so long. So
that was ghetto. That was how those Nintendo Play choices worked.
Yeah, that was Don't ever go there again, please.
Ooh, how about that? Why not the Nintendo Play Choice cartridge or collection
machine or whatever
for your Switch?
Well, wait a minute, but that was the whole thing about the Play Choice. Is like arcades, they would just swap out the cartridges. They were just it was like a CD changer.
There were only
back
so
in the
many
day.
made, though. I think.
Wait, are you meaning a collection of the games for Switch? Or are you meaning something you can put your Switch games into?
No, I mean, well, they'd both be great.
That's what I want.
But no, I'm in a collection of games for the Switch.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the entire NES collection because that's all those Play Choice machines were. And I don't know how many were made. But
I thought they actually had PC boards in them. I thought they actually had boards for each of the games. They weren't like an actual NES cartridge. I think they actually had.
Oh, they were.
I
they were
you
clear
can buy the PC boards.
Well, maybe that was the base board for it, but they were clear and they had the cartridge. Maybe they were fake cartridges or something. But as far as I ever understood, that was effectively an NES in arcade form.
Yeah.
And you got 3 minutes to play a cartridge out of a quarter. And as far as rarity, I don't know. There weren't many arcades left around here when I was a kid. The only one I knew of at some point late in its life cycle had like maybe 8 of them in a row. So they seem like they were relatively common at some point.
So now we've only got the really great arcade archives games to look forward to. Balloon Fight and Clue Clue Land.
We all like Clue Clue Land.
Yeah, you like. I've never played it, so I can't really say. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
I've heard you say it's all right.
Yeah. I don't know that I would pay $8 for one.
What I was gonna say, what else did they have other than those two? Was there anything else that they even had announced that was coming?
Not that I can recall.
So maybe they're getting towards the end of the line. Sure would be nice to see a Donkey Kong or something. But
Hopefully they'll continue it, and that might be something we see.
yeah.
Towards E3, they might announce future titles.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see all kinds of. I'd take a Paperboy, or
Yeah, I would too.
Stuff like that. Even Galaga and Dig Dug, like if they did, I don't know, for $8 though.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty steep.
The $8 is what kills me about the arcade archives. Like I feel like those are. It's like we think it's funny that they charge $5 for NES games.
That doesn't seem so bad anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't seem so bad when you're looking at a faithful arcade port for $8.
By the way, I'm correcting myself. The Play Choice 10, I must have seen some other kind of clone machine or something. I'll have to figure out what I had seen. Because the Play Choice, what it is you're right. The cartridges had a different connector on them. They're not. It's the bare cartridge board. But now I remember arcade machines that effectively had a clear bottom cabinet with a rack of NES cartridges in them.
I don't remember anything like that.
I would swear these were the Play Choice machines, but
that might have been some sort. Maybe there was some sort of demo station or something that maybe had like a button that was a game selector.
I remember.
Yes, exactly. You know what I'm talking about.
I think that's like an in-store demo.
But this was in an arcade. You paid $0.25 and you got 3 minutes. No BS.
It's also 30 years ago, and you've had a lot of marijuana since then.
That's true. But the machine existed. What it was, I'm going to have to find out.
Someone get back to you on the next podcast. We'll update you on it and see who finds it. So we were originally talking about Punch-Out before we got lost in arcade land. And there's someone here who got their first chance at Nintendo's new Punch-Out.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Max got her first shot at the ARMS Global Testpunch.
What'd you think, Max?
The Friday night, I played it for an hour and a half.
All right.
I managed to win a few times, enough to keep my interest. And Saturday afternoon, I played again for maybe half an hour, and I was glad to stop playing it.
Yeah.
Did you use buttons or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Use the buttons. Yeah.
I think that's the best way to play. ARMS, by the way, in a shocking show of Nintendo almost half-assedly supporting something and making sense, put ARMS on sale in the eShop.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the same time as they're doing the Testpunch, which although I still don't think they marketed it very well, though.
They also ran a live stream. What's it called?
Oh yeah, a little competition or whatever.
Yeah, a little online competition. I actually sort of watched it.
A legitimate competitive gaming experience.
Arguably.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of our feeling on ARMS too. It's like
yeah, it's fun for a little while, but
it's not. You see what we mean? It's not, or what I mean? It's not bad. It's not a horrible game.
No.
It
would be funner if I was playing in a room full of people and everyone was taking turns fighting each other.
Yeah, I think the one-on-one is kind of limiting of it, because and especially like I went on as soon as it started, I was just like, I'll give it a shot, and I jumped in as soon as it started. When I jumped in, it was all Japanese players. And I'm guessing they had a little bit of experience because they were all knocking me out like in 20 seconds. Like I was feeling like I couldn't get off a punch. And they had like the exact timing, because there is a timing of when you can punch again.
Yep.
And I felt like they all were just hitting that perfectly. And I'd block a few, and then they'd grab me, and it's like it was embarrassing. I was like, all right, well, I've had enough. At least in the first global Testpunch, the advantage we had is that no one had played it, so we were all just sloppy and bad.
But you watched for those ratings, though. In the earlier ones, you should get somebody wandering into your lobby. It's 20 ratings ahead of you. Wow.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's. I guess that's just based on how much you've been playing, though. Because even if you lose, you get some points. But yeah, it meant they had some experience. But
I actually played it some more. I played a couple different times, maybe 3 times now that I think about it. And playing with the buttons rather than the motion controls. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like you said, we've always said it's not a bad game necessarily.
But I don't think I could go out and buy it. Not for
no
discount.
No, and the discount that they've even got it at right now, I think it's still like $40-some, like
$41.99, I think.
Yeah, in the eShop, which even at $20, it would be a hard sell for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it even has an option. I should have looked at the menu there to see if you can fight like computer opponents or. I just don't want to really 1v1 something online. Like, chances are whoever the other person is better than me, and it's not fun to just constantly lose.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my question about this. Z is the only one here who has the full version of the game. If you're a player that, like me, that maybe enjoyed this or enjoyed it more, and you're thinking, I should probably pick this up while it's on sale, what can you expect in the full game different from the demo?
I mean, I'm trying to remember because I honestly, as someone who bought the game, I did download the Testpunch this time. I couldn't drag myself to actually do it. To give you an idea. That said, new kid, I was finishing Mario, I was doing other stuff, so I have a lot of excuses as to why I didn't. I would have if I'd had the time, honestly.
Yeah.
And I know I always joke about going online and getting my ass handed to me. Like with anything, in Splatoon, right? Sometimes you just get a good rotation and a bad rotation. You just get a series of, insanely, good people against you, and then sometimes you don't. And so like once I've warmed up and I was playing, with motion controls, I would do okay online. I would probably lose more than I won, but I would win some, enough to feel like I was getting somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd play for a while. I was doing motion control, so I'd get tired after a while. But it would be enough for me, and I wouldn't, it just would depend. If I just jump right into an online match, no, I'm just gonna have a miserable experience. If I'm actually gonna commit to sitting down, warming up, playing it for a while, single player, and then go online and whatever and commit the time, then it's actually a pretty fun experience. It's for something that's not. Again, not there's some strategy and there's I don't fault the people that play it, but it's just not a very deep game. And for something that's not a very deep game, it does seem to take a lot of mental effort. And I just I don't know, for certain people the challenge and stuff is going to be totally cool. Again, if it's cheap, I would play with you online. We could team up, you know what I mean? Because you can go in as a team and whatever, and I'd do that. But and also again, as a party thing, like if you have people over or if you have kids or whatever, I totally think local multiplayer. I think it's great for that. But there's just not a ton there. It's a $20-$30 game at best especially at this point a year out.
Does it have a single player game versus AI rather than people?
Oh, yeah, and which was broken in the beginning. As far as I read other places and talked to other people. The 2 other friends of mine that had it, and you'd basically play. I think, well, I don't remember where it was, but at some point the AI jumped from like stupid easy, where you could win every match perfect without them ever laying a fist on you, to like unreasonably difficult at the next difficulty level. Yeah, it was like it went. Yeah, literally it went from stupid easy to like incredibly challenging. I mean, I could just barely do it after some practice and whatever, but it was it was way too steep of a jump, and I'm sure that turned a lot of people off at the beginning. like me, and I know a buddy of mine who just basically quit playing. He complained that it's, damn, this is hard, and then he just kind of put it away and stopped playing it. And they since fixed it. They put out an update that now it seems like it's a nice smooth transition all the way up, through the various, 1 to 10 skill levels. But I think, I don't know. I know of at least one person they lost with that right off the bat. That did pay the money for it, but then put it away and it's gathering dust, and he'll never probably play it again.
Yeah, I never really considered until just tonight, but thinking when I think about it, like with a Splatoon or a Rocket League or any of those multiplayer, even if you're bad, you could possibly have somebody on your team that can kind of cover for you.
Yeah.
We've all had those
helps.
experiences online where you're like, oh, thank God I had that guy on my team because he really saved it. Whereas
or
ARMS,
you
I
have
think the
one
fact that it's
person.
1 versus 1, it's a little tougher.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Smash with me. As a person who I love playing Smash, but then you go online and you just get they wipe the floor with you. It's not fun to play anymore.
Yeah.
Especially
Smash and to some degree even Mario Kart sometimes.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing with people you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but again, Mario Kart, you can lose yourself in the pack. And as you guys mentioned, Splatoon and other team shooters, there's kind of a balance there where you can still win and have a good time even if you're the worst person on the team.
Yeah.
And yeah, vice versa, you can have a terrible person on your team and still do fine. So I get it, but it's and not to say that we're terrible, but you know what I mean. It's just like when it's just 1v1, if you're up against an opponent that's just substantially better than you, there's no team camaraderie, there's no commiserating and being beaten, there's just you getting your ass beat.
You're just rolled up in a ball getting kicked. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I felt. Like I played I think I lost every single match I played. I lost 5 in a row, and it's just like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm sure I could probably boot it up the next morning, and when the kids get on,
or just you know what? Did you just get out and get back in? Sometimes with Splatoon.
Oh no, I didn't. I wasn't even loving it that much. Like the training feels okay.
Yeah. I don't know. The little mini games are all right, but
I'm glad Max and millions of others got a chance to at least try it.
Yeah, and I think that's enough for most people.
Yeah.
If they immediately after this Testpunch dropped it to $20, I think that would be the only way they could resurrect it.
Well, I said it before. It's like as much as I talk about how every Nintendo thing needs a demo, like that's the one game where
it's a demo.
It's like after playing the demo, you're just like, okay, never mind. But although that's a sign that it's not the greatest thing, too. If you're done, if a demo satisfies you that you don't want to keep playing the game, well, then the game wasn't that great to begin with.
But then there's also the fact, and I understand what Nintendo's afraid of here, is the concern that if you give people too much of a demo, then there's so much other stuff out there. And this is my mindset a lot of times, is a lot of times a demo is enough. Like I've seen enough of that game and I don't need to buy it anymore. Like my curiosity has been satiated. Like you talked to me, like I was checking out the Lode Runner Legacy. And you basically have you tried the demo yet? Yeah, okay, I'll try the demo. Yeah, it's cool. I've seen enough, but otherwise, I was probably gonna buy it.
Right. Yeah, and that's an old classic. But like Splatoon's the flip side of the coin, where I was really not sold on Splatoon 1. I was like, it looks okay, but I don't understand why everyone there was a lot of hype on the Wii U
until that test fire. Yeah. And I didn't even get on until the second test fire. Remember, I think they did 2 before the actual launch. And the first one I remember you guys talking about, that was, I think actually now that I'm thinking back, because you and I both were not on the bandwagon with this. We were like, eh. And then I think it was in large part you being a convert that made me want to try it on the second round.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, hey, this actually but sometimes it is like that, where everybody in the world sees it except for me. Like, because everybody else seemed to be like, "Oh my God, did you see that Splatoon at E3? That looks amazing." And I was like, I mean, it's whatever, but I don't know. But then, yeah, it turned out to be good. So Arms just doesn't have that thing.
You know what? Another big part of it is it's a game. You can watch it all day long on Twitch or whatever, but how good of a game it is, to me, really comes down to how it feels and the controls and the right. Breath of the Wild, a
Yeah.
big part of Breath of the Wild is the controls are just so easy and fluid and accessible, and there's all sorts of complexity to them that you can just completely ignore if you want, right?
Yeah.
And still have a perfectly
Well,
satisfying
it's just like we were
experience
talking
playing the
about,
game.
like when we played through the game and beat Ganon, none of us were doing like the
Yeah,
dodges and the
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
where it's like I'll just bash stuff to hell and heal myself if I need to.
And so to me, that's right. That's a selling point. And all the
Yeah.
crazy stuff that you pull off in Mario that, again,
Yeah.
most people will just never do. Most people will never know you can do.
And I didn't do it. I didn't do it through the whole game. My daughter,
exactly.
granted, she's only 4. She doesn't know how to even do the hat jump. But she has plenty of fun.
Yeah, exactly. Have you turned on the assist mode for her?
Yeah, she plays in assist mode. But like even just the whole holding down Y, just to keep it held down so that the hat flies in front of you and you can hop on it. Like
that's a little, yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't do any of that stuff. Like I could at least do the basic hat jump throughout the game, but I wasn't doing the crazy jumps like I am now until after I beat it. So, but yeah, Arms doesn't feel super responsive. I think because there's like a weird timing to the punching. It feels like.
Well, and okay, now, but going back to that, that's very similar to Steel Diver, right? I think that may be that kind of slow strategic type, right? Steel Diver was the slow strategic shooter. This is the slow strategic fighter, theoretically.
Slow boxing.
So I get it, and that makes it a little more accessible for noobs when it's not quite so fast and furious out of the gate. But it is what it is. I would like to see it do well. I think it's a fine game, but I think Nintendo would have to drop like a massive 1.5 update with new content for free.
Arms 2 is either going to make or break the franchise. Like, if there's any way to save it, they better figure it out. I think they will. I think they'll do it. I think they'll put out a second one at some point.
Yeah,
I think they'll give it up. I think Arms characters will show up in Smash and the inevitable Punch-Out. I don't know. I might be wrong.
Fight Little Mac versus Springman. I thought they were going to add Little Mac as DLC for it, but never happened. I don't know.
But then they'd have to give Little Mac giant springy fists, and that would be weird.
Yeah,
I could have done it.
All the springs are made out of something different. What would his be made out of?
Still wouldn't save it. I don't know.
What?
Flesh.
Yeah, exactly. Something disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bandages.
Yeah.
And
Doc.
Pink sweatshirt.
That pink sweatshirt was what I was.
Yeah. Just I don't know. Wireframe, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's true. They could do the green wireframe. That would work.
Well, we have been mentioning in our next topic, which is Splatoon 2, and that is Splatfest. It's been announced for here in North America, which is team baseball or team soccer.
Yeah, that's. You said North America, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're counting. They got to be. I don't know what it's like in Canada. We know what it's like in the U.S. They got to be counting on Mexico to make this a little more balanced because there's no way. I mean, now that said, baseball is on the decline around here. If it were like football or basketball versus soccer, it would be a joke. But then again, other places they might take the football to mean like they might think that it's the same thing. Who knows?
I personally am an odd man out. Like I prefer soccer, and I'm just one of those people. They're both terribly boring games to me. Like watching baseball is very slow. Like, I remember the first time I really watched baseball, which to be honest it was probably in the last 10 years where I actually was like, let's watch this baseball America seems to love. And I was like, man, this is just such a slow game. I can't believe that people like it.
Baseball's way better if you're actually there at the game.
Yes.
That's what I hear too.
Football's
That's
better on
every
TV.
sporting event.
Um,
I would
Yeah.
disagree. Every sporting event's better when you're in the in the stands with
I agree.
cheering crowds and a beer in your hand.
of course, at a soccer one, you got to worry about bombs, fights.
Right?
But I'm gonna be. It seems like the majority has voted in our group for baseball, so
Yep.
I will be playing ball.
If we hold any influence over you at all, our dear listeners, join Team Baseball and play Splatfest with us.
I think baseball obviously has got popularity, so it's already got one of the three down.
It
And
usually means it loses, though.
but we'll be playing as a team, so that means the team portion will be baseball win as well.
That's true. Yeah. Although baseball's is it red or orange, and then soccer's got green, which I prefer green.
I prefer green as well, but baseball was my inclination, and that's what everybody else wanted to. I would have, yeah.
Your Inkling Nation. That's a Game Explain joke. or on their caliber.
I just figured it out. Brick dust versus grass.
Yeah.
Brick dust?
Brick dust.
Whatever
the outfield.
whatever they call the
grass,
infield.
Infield.
No, yeah, the dirt, but it's red.
Oh, okay.
Not clay. It's called
Like
brick dust.
dust.
Clay. Yeah.
I don't know what they call it. That's what I've always
Brick
called
dust.
it since I was a kid.
I'm pretty sure it's called dirt.
It's not called dirt. It's red. I'm pretty sure
Clay?
it's ground up brick.
Oh, maybe it is.
I have no idea.
Well, bricks are made out of clay, aren't they? I don't know. We'll go with it. It's brick dust versus grass in the new Splatfest.
Okay.
Yeah. And we got Piranha Pit back.
You're right. It's clay.
It's clay. Hey, where I live, clay is in the ground, so we see that all the time. I won't go into the details on that, but yeah, I did want to point out one other thing about Splatfest. And on April Fool's Day, which was this past Sunday, apparently the next Splatoon 2 Japanese Splatfest was announced, and this is a pretty interesting one if it's true. There is official art for it, supposedly, and it would be a joint effort with the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology, JAMSTEC. So the Splatfest theme was, which instills the most wonder, undiscovered creatures, or advanced technologies. And they claim it ties in with the hat that we picked up in Grisco, so it's kind of cool. And there's also a submarine in Manta Maria you can see in the distance that is actually a real submarine. It's kind of a cool idea. Hope it turns out to be true.
Yeah.
It does contain powdered brick.
It's brick dust.
All right. I want to change the name of this podcast to Brick Dust.
Feel like, what could it mean?
It was an outcry last week, and I did not go with it. So
I'm sorry. That's my statement about Grisco. I still find it boring.
You need to play with us. We have fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's we play that mode together, or at least it's probably my fault, but I play that mode together with everybody the most.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, it makes it more fun.
And it's something like it's very casual. You can just say, "Hey, who wants to just hop into Grisco?" It's kind of limited, so it feels like an event almost. But Jason and I hopped in there for a couple hours probably the other night.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We had fun.
Yeah. At least we knew we had half a chance.
That's
right.
But
I would be a total noob at this point because I've only done it like 2 or 3 times with randos, and it sucked.
Well, every time you play, it's just like, how did these people?
How are
these people playing on our level?
We're playing at 100% professional, and we get people in there that doesn't know to use special on the mothership.
Do you feel like there should be they added S plus, they added X. Do we need something above professional? Um,
It would be
to
nice.
to weed the men from the boys. Like I don't necessarily want the game to be harder,
No.
but if I have to do something to get more competent teammates or some other rating system, um, you know, it would be. I never really or very rarely in Grizzco do you feel like a cohesive unit, like where everybody's just clicking together.
When you have that
Uh,
feeling, though, it's like it's magical. It's like you remember
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then you get two noobs that want to squid party instead of play
yeah.
next round.
Yeah.
Or the people that just drop out. That's always good too.
Oh, that's always great. And then you get to the third round and you're short one egg. And
Yeah.
anyway.
Help.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. And the next one is kind of an interesting one. It's from a good time back. And that is Niantic has finally settled a lawsuit over Pokemon Go Fest in Chicago. I believe that was last summer.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
That was a big to-do, though, back then.
Yeah, it was. It was a huge deal. And Niantic settled for $1.5 million.
Wow.
That's
So,
a lot of DLC.
and for those of you who may not be fully familiar with the game,
Or remember.
or remember what happened, basically, people lined up for hours to get into Go Fest. The tickets sold out within minutes, so a lot of people paid money from scalpers up to hundreds of dollars to get into it. And Niantic pretty much botched it from the beginning. You couldn't connect, and when you did connect, lots of times you were disconnected immediately and couldn't play the game.
And there were special distributions, right, of Pokemon that were only going to be there, and that's pretty much why everyone went to catch those.
That's right. It was
rare Pokemon that they couldn't connect and catch.
That's right. There was Unknown. There were going to be the first Pokemon raids were happening during that time. And I believe there was also going to be Heracross there as well. Maybe something else that I may be forgetting. But even if
people flew from all over the U.S. and possibly the world.
From outside the world. So,
no, not outside the world.
Not outside the world.
That would be
outside of the It's getting late, so my mind's going. But anyway, people were suing, for their $25 ticket fee, along with the lodging and travel expenses, because some people did come from a long ways. The guy who was suing came from California to Chicago, so that's a pretty good trip. But and Niantic has also, before this, after Go Fest, they admitted, we're sorry what happened. They offered refunds for the tickets. They gave $100 in Pokecoins and sent everyone who attended and checked in a free Pokemon. So it still worked out, and I don't think people were too angry after it kind of cooled off for a while, but it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
To me, it's just another example of what's plagued that game since it launched. It's never been ready for prime time. They just never, you know what I mean? It launched with massive bugs and massive problems. Yeah. By the time they fixed those, they'd already lost, all the casuals pretty much. And then they started, and then what people were left started to realize there's just nothing to it. Then when they finally got around to start adding content, it's like the percentages have to be down to literally less than 1% of what they were. You know what I mean? I mean, it's got to be.
It's just the hardcore, dedicated players.
Yeah. Jason's still going.
Yeah,
Are you still
there's just a handful. There's probably as many people as were playing Ingress.
Right.
Mm.
There's still people. Yeah, there are people still playing though.
And I will mention for those who aren't keeping up with Pokemon Go news, if you're thinking about picking the game back up, they did recently add quest features, which are called research in the game. And basically you can do daily tasks like spin Pokestops, catch so many Pokemon, and earn small rewards. And then there is a larger special research project, and we get to see Professor Willow back again. He has like a little animation and talks to you. And at the end of completing his quest, you do get the option to catch Mew. So, first time available in game. So if you haven't played it in a while. come back and check it out.
But is there and I want an excuse too, because I wanted it to, I wanted to like it, but do the quests involve anything other than stuff you already had to do in the game anyway?
Not really.
Yeah, see, that's they need to expand on actual gameplay options and stuff to do in the game. Like if the quest is just X number of Pokestops, X number of steps, hatch X number of eggs, catch X number of Pokemon, like that's
You
not.
might as well just play Pocket Camp and give kudos to 3 friends, or
Yeah.
catch 27 olive flounders.
Like all this is now we're offering you incentives to continue playing. We're not like that's all the quote unquote quest is really now we'll give you something if you keep doing stuff.
It's really an endurance test.
Jason has passed that endurance test. He's long past that endurance test.
I still enjoy it. There's still new Pokemon. There's still Pokemon I have not caught. And they are slowly... They really dragged out the release of Gen 3, releasing it in kind of groups based on type. But I have hopes that it will continue to do well. And they are keeping events coming, so... Pretty cool. I've had fun with it.
Good.
All right.
I dipped back into Pocket Camp for a long time.
Speaking of
3
somebody
weeks of
who's
Super Mario,
I'm sorry, I can't understand.
I'm winding down. Well, they had teased that there was like going to be a little Super Mario crossover, and that they were going to have like question blocks and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I'll dip back in for a week and collect all this Mario crap. And then the next week they said, oh, now we're going to do round 2 of Mario, which I didn't know was coming. And then now we've added more stuff that you can get. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get that crap too. Okay, now I'm done. Then they said, now here comes round 3. And we got piranha plants and fire bars and goal poles. So I've done
so you
that.
can get Mario stuff in a game that you don't.
That I don't even want. But I just,
Yeah.
if somebody visits my dead campsite, they're going to be like, wow, this guy loves Mario. Woohoo. Yeah, I don't know. It's something to do, I guess. Hopefully they don't announce round 4. Barring that, I think I'm back out. The game's really not any better than it ever was.
Please, Nintendo, save our friend Mo.
Yeah, don't. If you do, give me a Metroid something and I'll be back. Till then, so long, and I'm not spending a dime.
Well, as long as you're not spending money on it, then.
No. I was glad, too, because there was a special item in each week that took 120 of those tickets.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And luckily, through crafting certain items, it gave you like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 tickets. So after you crafted enough stuff, you would actually earn enough tickets to get the little thing. Because that, like, at first I was like, oh man, are they going to make me have to pay money to get some of this stuff? And then when this third round came along, the special item was 240 instead of 120 of the Leaf tickets. And I was like, oh no. But luckily there was enough stuff that it still worked out that you could earn it without paying money just through grinding. Which Nintendo should learn. We will always grind. If rather than coughing up $4 or whatever.
Yeah.
I will spend 16 hours grinding so that I don't have to pay $4.
That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
I feel the same way.
And if Nintendo knows their audience, they understand that.
Yeah, I don't think they understand. We don't want to grind.
We don't want
to pay.
And we don't want.
Because it seems like grinding is an element that they're starting to add to their games a little bit more and more, like collectathon stuff. It's like
that's always kind of been a thing. It's what I mean. It comes and goes with the times, I guess.
It's like I don't enjoy doing it. I just want the stuff. But anyway.
All right. Moving on. So we have one little side note. I do want to make sure that we were clear on. If you kind of picked up our early conversation, there was mention of certain someone finally completing Super Mario Odyssey. Just want to make sure.
Was that brought up?
I think it
little
was
bit.
mentioned on the side, but I want to send out some congratulations to Steve for finally finishing it. What's the opinion now that you've finished off Bowser and completed the game?
Oh, my opinion is it's much easier without a kid.
Okay.
There's your stunning conclusion, everyone. I've been building up for weeks.
I'll just tell you what it says in my notes here, and that is, So I was expecting that.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's I did the first part of it and then I paused and had to come back 6 hours later and then completed it and it was cool and it was
figured
fun.
out how to jump fire. What do you think of the ending sequence?
It's cute. It's cheesy, but it's fun. I wish I'd been able to show it to the wife, but I'm sure I can play back through it and rerun it. But yeah, and then I ended up and I also ended up having to finish it in handheld mode, which was not ideal, but that was what it was.
Thanks to the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, no, it totally I just paused it and then a few hours later snuck into the baby's room while she was sleeping and stole it and then I think I probably finished it off on the toilet or something.
Yeah.
That's a good way to finish Odyssey.
That's the way you should finish any Odyssey.
Yeah.
So spoiler alert, you get to play as Bowser a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a neat little, it's kind of expected, but it's a neat little, gimmick at the end.
Yeah.
And then, unlocked Dark Side. And then I don't tell me what's to unlock next. I'll eventually get to it.
What do you think of Peach abandoning you on the effing moon? Or trying to.
That's totally Like all of a sudden after you play through however many hours of game chasing this bitch, she's like, "Oh well, you're as good as Bowser. I can't decide between you two." Bowser, who kidnapped me, took me, what's the name of that syndrome where victims fall in love
Stockholm
with
syndrome?
kidnappers?
Stockholm, yeah.
Stockholm syndrome. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's what's happened here, because at the end he busts out with the stupid what did he tries to give her piranha plant, a little bouquet of piranha plants, and it's like right, yeah, this is a choice. I mean not to even in Mario World, this is stupid. Obviously in the real world, it's I'm going to choose a green monster over a human being. Although that Shape of Water did win Best Picture at.
That's true.
So there is, I guess that's not without precedent. But right, it's just kind of like at the end after you've fought through this whole thing and I've rescued the princess, and she's just like, oh well. I can't decide between you and this asshole.
I mean, she didn't even pump the brakes. She just
she just hops in and takes off.
It's she didn't care if he made. I think Luigi's probably been hitting it for years, and they just
maybe
doing it on the down low.
Because he's already hanging out. He's hanging out at Peach's castle when Mario already gets there. He's like, "Hey, bro, how you doing?
Got my balloons."
You wanna play hide the balloon with me?
Yeah.
How about you go hide a balloon? You go off for go off for an hour and hide some balloons.
I'll keep your Peach warm.
No, I mean, I understand they want to make her a strong, independent woman at the end.
Yeah,
but it's like that's kind of just shitty.
Some honesty. Yeah, that was the biggest surprise to me. Which I can't say I was really shocked or anything, but I was just like, man, that's some cold-hearted stuff.
It was a very it was a sad ending after we put all this work into a game, and it's like,
what do I have to do to unlock the good ending?
Exactly. I must not have beat it fast enough. Because there's got to be an ending where Mario doesn't have to humiliate himself like an idiot at the end, right? There's a good ending, right?
No,
I just missed
sorry.
it.
There's not.
What about Cappy? He's went all this way to find his sister, and she's like, "I'm leaving with the princess, you fool."
Yeah, she leaves too.
Yeah.
Maybe Peach and Tiara have something going on.
Never know.
They do go on vacation together afterwards.
Wait, that was his sister?
Yeah.
When was that mentioned at the beginning and I just missed it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole time I figured, right, he's after his princess, I'm after my princess. This is all weird. This is like when you found out Leia was Luke's sister after the scene where they kissed in Empire, and it's all like, I don't know what to think now.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Nobody cares about Cappy and Tiara.
He's a little tiara, and he's a top hat, just like all the others.
Yeah, that's the fact that there's a hat world to begin with is.
What, you don't buy that?
Well, it's just like, I mean, I get like mushrooms are inanimate objects, but we've grown to accept that they walk around and can be stomped on, and they hurt you if you just happen to bump into them for some reason.
Well, now is the hat's going to be a thing that keeps reoccurring in Mario games?
I hope not.
Oh, I'm back in the old hat kingdom.
Oh,
classic.
No. You know Cappy will be in Smash, though.
There's a world of animate hats.
Yeah.
Who the
that are kind of ghosty.
You can handle Bowser. You can handle Koopa Troopas.
Bowser's just like a giant mutant turtle. Koopa Troopas they're just snapping.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles made Bowser okay, I guess, even though it came after or before.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. It's cool, and I mean, I guess to an extent, there was like probably our parents looked at us playing Super Mario Brothers, and it's like,
yeah, I think being a child helped some of that stuff go down. Where you weren't just like, man, these Japanese people are weird.
Well, I think
father got turned into a mushroom.
We still were, but it was like, oh, the eggplant wizard. He'll turn you into an eggplant. Like eggplants were not, they're not as much of a thing here as they are over there. When you're kicking durians around in Super Mario Sunshine, like that's my first experience with that fruit. By the way, do you know they smell terrible?
Is that the one that's supposed to be like pork? Like it tastes like pork?
I
think I've heard.
I don't know. It smells like gasoline.
Yeah. Delicious.
But people saw this and said this is delicious to eat.
It'll give you extra hearts in Breath of the Wild, that's for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Link loves durians.
Yeah. So
we should too.
Good for Odyssey. Your Odyssey is pretty much over. Oh, I was going to ask you. What did you think of the Charge and Chuck section? If you know what I'm talking about now. That's the football guy.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it was brief.
You have no trouble.
It wasn't brief for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't play it forever, but
I don't remember having a particular hard time with it.
The problem is if you die at all or fall off, you basically have to start that entire section over again. So it was very unforgiving, I felt like.
I must have just gotten lucky on. I think I did die on it once. I'm pretty sure. I don't. Maybe I must have died early.
It can be tough because I think he's running on like a really thin platform as well.
You have to line up straight and do your
So it's like I think I had fallen off multiple times. It was just like, God, just get this over with.
Well, thank you for making me feel proud of myself. But that, it just sometimes you're just having an off moment. It's like, because right after Odyssey, I had talked to my coworker, convinced me to bust out the old N64 and try Ocarina of Time. And that boss fight on the Forest Temple was just kicking my ass last night. And then I went back today and just bam through it in the first shot, no problem. It just
sometimes you have to do that. I do that if I've played like a long session. Like when I played Doom, I played it from start to pretty much the entire day to I guess it ended up being the second to last boss, but I just kept dying, and I was like, there must be some trick I don't know. And I watched some YouTube videos to be like, what am I doing wrong here? And it's like, nope, you just have to kick his ass. Like,
That's
so,
every
so yeah, so like I was like, there must be some like weakness or something that I'm just not doing, because I'm like,
Nope,
this is
you just
it
gotta
felt like
pump
a difficulty
ammo
spike.
into him. Yeah.
So I just put the game down, went to bed, and then the next morning, whatever, ate breakfast and was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I got through it pretty quick. So sometimes you do need that little break.
Whatever the final level on Melee was, my buddy and I were rotating back and forth between it. We were just failing. It was just a random like Saturday afternoon. And we walked down to the bar, had a couple beers, came back, nailed it first try. I still say it's the beer.
You were adults at this time, right?
Of course, yeah.
This was at the bar.
Melee, dude, GameCube. That's not that long ago.
Oh, Melee. I was
Yeah, Z was like 38 when that came out.
Oh, you can eat my ass.
I was trying to make you sound young there, Z, but I failed.
I was not.
All right, so let's move on.
You.
Let's reel it back in and move on to our final topic. Just sort of a interesting thing. It's come up really recently, and this is one that Mo brought up. Nintendo Bezel Engine. So at Japan's Game Creator Conference, a select few got to see a demo of Nintendo's new engine that apparently is supposed to be geared towards middleware, which they of course call NintendoWare, making games in a short amount of time, lower on cost. And apparently this is something that's been going on since around the Wii era. There's been games on the Wii, 3DS, and Wii U all made with a similar engine, but this is a new one. 2 games have been produced so far. Room in the Night Sky, and the other one I'm going to butcher the title here, but it's Sumuko Garashi Sumuko Parky Yokoso. Both Japanese.
You know what he's talking about.
It's some Japanese title. If you know this game, good for you, because I sure don't.
Yeah.
But pretty interesting. Middleware, NintendoWare.
Yeah, so from what I'm gathering, it's basically just an engine like Unity or Unreal or whatever. It's just Nintendo's got their own little tool set and engine for, you can make a game in this, or you know, we were talking about this, trying to figure it out, because Z knows a lot more about this stuff than we do. And you were saying it could possibly be used to port stuff, maybe too.
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying. Was it possibly this go-between?
Yeah, and we don't necessarily know what they showed people or whatever, but and my initial opinion on that may be totally incorrect, but it's some sort of development environment that they've got specifically for the Switch. And I think one of you guys mentioned it's right. The other consoles have their own custom development environments as well. It's the same kind of thing. So this isn't really anything out of the box.
The YouTuber Spawnwave did a little bit on it and had talked about that, how PlayStation has their own thing, and I don't really know what the benefit is of it, other than maybe they make it available. Maybe it's cheaper than using a Unity or an Unreal Engine. Every engine, I'm sure they've got to pay royalties or some sort of usage fee to use those engines.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that like Nintendo probably is like, here to developers they like or want to get on board, probably mostly indies, but who knows?
Yeah,
they're like, here's our engine, we'll just give it to you. Whatever. There's probably going to be incentives, but then this engine, right? Whatever you develop on this is probably only going to run
ours. Only going to run on Nintendo,
and it's going to have, and it's and there's going to be licensing attached to it because you developed it in our environment, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. But just a way to get exclusives from indies, you think?
Yeah, I guess. But again, we just don't know how extensive it is or what's all entailed. Is it something that is right? Is it something that big companies can use to as a tool set to help port their already existing AAA titles to Switch, or is it something totally separate from that? Does it include components that it could have a lot to it, or it could just be some really basic, development environment for building a few particular types of indie games, and that's it. Kind of like
I think
Unity.
it's Mario Maker.
Like straight up.
Yeah, that's just Mario Maker.
If anything, I would think it would be Breath of the Wild Maker.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I would like to see a lot more stuff in that engine. Yeah.
And again, I speculate that Mario is largely based on at least some components from Breath of the Wild. Because again, it would be foolish to put the amount of development that they put into Breath of the Wild and not reuse some of that.
Yeah.
Especially because it's obviously like you know what I mean. They built an entire beautiful, crazy environment in there, and they can reuse a lot of those aspects. Copy paste code, even probably.
I'd be all for a Breath of the Wild style Metroid.
Oh God, yes.
Oh, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah,
or something like
cool.
that.
No, yeah, that's again when the N64 came out, Mario 64 came out, Ocarina of Time came out, and I was like, okay, now where's the Metroid? And it never happened. I wanted a Metroid in exactly that style.
They were working on it. It just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, now totally. I mean, just you know what? Just retrofit. Use the exact same world. Just dig a bunch of caves into it and give me Metroids. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just reskin it. I don't care. I'll play it again.
Yeah, exactly. I would totally play Breath of the Wild again, but now Ganon is the mother brain, and I can shoot stuff, without a bow. Like I'm ice beams and stuff. I'm all over it.
I have to cook my missiles and stuff.
Yeah. Or maybe you just think now you have to eat instead of getting little energy pellets. That would
you
suck.
Got to fight divine beasts to get the ice beam. Or Ridleys, the 4 divine Ridleys. Yeah, I'm okay with it. As a Nintendo fan, I'm used to rebuying the same crap over and over again. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
just reskin it. Yeah, I don't think we have a ton to say on their middleware, but it's nice that Nintendo's obviously very indie friendly, and like I said, there's probably $1 or $2 to be made here for themselves as well. So,
I mean, we don't even know, for example, if this stuff supports Labo, or right.
Yeah.
It probably supports all sorts of crazy extended Joy-Con functions, stuff that wouldn't be in Unity.
That's true. Or different motor speeds for
whatever.
For the Joy-Con HD Rumble.
Oh yeah, the HD Rumble stuff, all those custom things. That's what all this stuff would support.
Yeah, because some people are using it, are using those really interesting ways and stuff. But I definitely recommend everybody go to your eShop and just watch the trailer for Room in the Night Sky, because it's just bizarre.
It's also on YouTube. That's where
you can watch it.
And by the way, if you want to see the full blurb, which was from Takashi Daisuke, I put that up on our Twitter, so you can see the official word from Nintendo. It's just 3 paragraphs, so it's pretty brief.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Hopefully this means more games on the Switch.
We will see. Like I said, there's always announcements around the corner, I'm sure. I'm ready for another Direct.
Do you think they will start using the term NintendoWare as like they have with Nindies? Is this going to?
I don't know. I wondered about if this was something similar to WiiWare
or DSiWare.
That would be interesting.
If that stuff, if this is just Switchware.
Well, and that's basically because that's what DSiWare was back in the day. It was that's all that was, right? You didn't have third-party stuff. It was like if you wanted a downloadable game on the DSi, this is how you did it. And the WiiWare, same thing outside of Virtual Console.
Right.
Now in this day and age, it's just more indie stuff. But in this case, it'll be Nintendo specific. So yeah, it'll be NintendoWare. Maybe. Oh, here's something interesting. Maybe it's something that's easily portable to 3DS as well. I doubt it. Never mind.
I think that's
never
dreaming.
know. Like I said, I want to see the Metroid for 3DS. I want to see that. I just want to see everything on 3DS. Come on over. Give me New Leaf on Switch. I don't care.
You know what? That Metroid, and I have picked it up since and played and got a couple more Metroids in it and just have kind of been eking my way through it. But I would, if they were announced it for Switch, I would just stop playing it on the 3DS as much as I love the 3D and pick it up on Switch because I know it would be a nice, sharp.
It looks beautiful on 3DS, but yeah, it would.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it does, but
I would love to see an HD Super Metroid, something like, just something where they prettied up and did a nice 2D Metroid on
in a pretty 2.5D.
Yeah,
totally an original redone. I would take it.
Yeah, but until then, I strongly will still recommend SteamWorld Dig 2. That is.
Yep, all the SteamWorld games are top notch. I'd second that recommendation.
And they're on sale still, I think. Maybe not by the time this comes out. Either way, pay full price. It's worth it.
Yep, definitely. And they're great developers. If you've seen any of their videos on Twitter or YouTube, pretty nice guys. So
yeah,
check it out. All right.
Form for life.
Well,
I think we've said everything we're going to say tonight.
Yeah, I think we're ready to wrap it up here. So, hope everyone had a good holiday weekend. And it is officially Labo season. Strange to think it'll only be about a couple weeks away.
20 dog. Oh yeah, and I canceled my pre-order for Labo this week.
All of it?
I only had the one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You only had the one. You canceled.
I was just like, I wish I could rent Labo because that would be a perfect rental.
I would have rent Labo. Yeah.
The more I look at it, I'm just like, I don't want the responsibility of this cardboard crap taking up space and storing it so it doesn't get smashed and paying $60 for it to have to be protective over it for something that I'm probably going to play with for an hour or two. So I
think I'm going to cancel the robot suit.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to keep the combo pack.
Yeah. It's like as neat as it is, I'm not the creative person that's going to get the use out of like the Labo garage. I'm not inventive enough to make my own little things. So
same here.
As fun as it is, I'll leave it to the people with the kids who are appropriate ages for it.
Alrighty. Well, I want to wrap it up here and say thanks for joining us tonight. And let us know if you're still excited for Labo or you have any other comments or questions. You can always hit us up here on YouTube where we record or over on Twitter. We're always glad to hear from our fans. And of course, it's follow for a follow and like for a like.
That's right.
That's right. Little me-verse humor. But anyway, you can also listen on Stitcher and iTunes. So thanks for watching and have a good one.
Good night.
Good night.
Party on.